Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I'm your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Big shout out to the replay gang. Thank you so much for coming back to watch this, even though you missed the live party. Guys, that is the best part, so make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. Been going 5-6 days a week now, so make sure you hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an Indian Jesus live party ever again. If you'd like to support the channel, oh, look, we got our co-host joining us. No, all right, well, if you'd like to support the channel, head on over to TheIndianJesus.com for your very own official merch. You can get t-shirts, you can get drawstring bags. There's a bunch of good stuff over there, all official merch only at TheIndianJesus.com. Guys, we do also have a completely free Discord server. It is an amazing place to go and have interesting and sometimes difficult conversations. It is a free speech platform, and it is free for you to join. However, if you are a member of this channel on YouTube, you can just scroll right below the video here, hit that join button, and there's a couple different levels, but it starts at just only $2.99 a month. Gets you not only members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff, but it opens up the full Discord server. That is right, you'll get full access, including the after party channel. So after every Monday, Wednesday, Friday stream, we are headed right over there. We don't have to worry about any YouTube censors or anything like that, and you are not stuck behind your keyboard. You're actually on screen with me and everybody else. It is a good time. Come and join us. Shout out to Sam Willard in the building. We also got Zippy. And look who else we got, my co-host, Morty. Welcome to the party. Welcome to another Philosophy Friday. If you have not seen prior Philosophy Fridays, that is totally fine. You'll be able to jump right in. But we've been going through the Crash Course YouTube channel. They have a playlist on philosophy. And since in our discussions of politics and religion and all that stuff, we do talk a lot about philosophy, I thought it would be a pretty good idea to kind of maybe do a 101 recap for all of us. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. And today we are going to be talking about justice. Yeah, I think that let's do it. As always, guys, if you can't hear the video, please do that.
Scene. A and B are next door neighbors. They both go to the same party and they both get equally drunk. Then A and B each get in their identical vehicles and drive home, A leaving just minutes before B. As A drunkenly wends their way back home, the roads are deserted and they make it back without incident. But as B drives down the same road just a few minutes later, a child darts out into the road. B's reaction time is impaired by the alcohol and they are unable to stop or swerve in time to avoid striking and killing the child. So
this goes without saying, guys. But don't drink and drive.
Who deserves more blame? Thinkers.
So who deserves more blame? The guy that killed the child or the guy that didn't? It seems like it would be a very easy answer to that question, right? Obviously, the guy who killed a child is worse than the guy who didn't, right?
To avoid striking and killing the child. So who deserves more blame? Thinkers, including 20th century British philosopher Bernard Williams and contemporary American philosopher Thomas Nagel, have used examples like this to illustrate some really thorny issues regarding moral responsibility. We talked about some of these issues when we met W.K. Clifford in our discussion of epistemic responsibility. But now that we got some more ethics under our belts, we can examine these questions more closely. Now,
see, I told you, it all build up to something. And again, even if you, you don't know what he's talking about there, we are going to be breaking everything down. But aren't you glad that you paid attention if you did?
Probably seems to you like B is clearly more blameworthy because B killed a child and A did not. So let's look closer. A and B made the equally blameworthy choice to drive while intoxicated. B encountered an external factor, a child in the road. Had a child crossed A's path, A would also have been unable to avoid hitting the child. Both intended to drive while drinking, and neither intended to hit anyone. So what does that mean? It looks like A just got morally lucky.
Morally lucky. That's where we are starting. Guys, don't forget that every single donation, super chat, Venmo, whatever, gets a treat for Morty.
What does it mean to be morally responsible? In philosophy, moral responsibility refers to acts or states of affairs for which you can be praised or blamed. But
Okay, I think that's a good definition. If you can be blamed for it, then you have responsibility for it. Hey, look who we got! Soil to Soul. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Very, very good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm doing well. How are you? So I don't know if you saw the beginning, but we have the two different people, same party, drank the same amount, and left the party a few minutes apart. Both driving drunk. One hit and killed a kid, and one didn't. The question is, which one is morally more responsible, or which one is morally more to blame, or however you want to phrase that.
Responsibility refers to acts or states of affairs for which you can be praised or blamed. But how do you figure out if you really deserve praise or blame for something that happens? Well, there's a principle in moral philosophy known as ought implies can. This
ought implies can. We'll get into that in a second, but Zippy over on Rumble says, guy who killed child, otherwise government will randomly declare you drove impaired. Never forget domino effects. The snowball comes for all. So legally, obviously I agree with you. Obviously, if you drove drunk and you got home, you got away with it. But that's not the discussion we're having. Morally, not legally, morally, who is more to blame for doing a wrong thing? And the idea is that they both did exactly the same thing. They made the same decisions. They behaved the same way. It's just that there were different external factors for the guy that hit the kid.
For something that happens. Well, there's a principle in moral philosophy known as ought implies can. This means that if you ought or should do something morally, then you first must be able to do it. In other words, you're only morally required to do things that are possible for you. And this makes some good sense, right? Ought implies can is one of the few philosophical principles that basically everybody agrees with. It just
pretty simple, right? Like I can't be morally obligated to do something I can't physically do. Well, that don't make no sense. Yeah, so I said I am 100% against drunk driving, period. Bingo. It's a rare black and white thing for me personally. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I think maybe not all of us, but definitely most of us have gone through a period where we didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I certainly got behind the wheel many times when I should not have. And one time was really, really bad. So there was some of you guys know that I used to be a drug addict. So I was doing pills, mixing, like painkillers and Xanax and drinking and smoking all at the same time and stuff. And then I would just get behind the wheel. Insane. But one time it was so bad that I don't know why I didn't pull over, but I should have. So if you know anything about doing those kind of downer drugs, then what happens is you get this effect where your eyes get really heavy. So it's hard enough to keep your eyes open, so you're like that, just trying to see. But then your vision actually, like if normally your eyes are like that, and your vision is like that, it tends to start like doing kind of that, and you kind of just got to shake it off. And so usually, I'm used to this. I'm driving, every few minutes or so, just and you're good. But whatever it was on this night, I guess it was because I drank more than usual when I was on the pills. But I thought I felt fine, and I got behind the wheel, and I was at it was after college, but I went back to hang out with people at my college that I went to, which was about a 40-minute drive. Mostly, straight highway, and I was driving in the middle of the night. Thankfully, there wasn't a lot of other people around, but I could not go 5 seconds without my vision getting blurry. It was just like I'd be on and start doing that and shake it and you're good. And right back to that. And the entire way home. I don't know why I didn't pull over. Because in the moment, I was like, this is not good. This is not something that can be, that can happen. And yeah, so like Soil says, one of the rare black and white things. Now, I definitely think that there is, I'm not somebody who says, oh, if you've had a drink, then you can't get behind the wheel. Like, come on. But I don't think that any one person is able to be the judge. Oh, I'm good. There should be a level that you set in your mind before you start drinking or whatever. That like, okay, your body. So it's like, okay, if I have 3 drinks, then I can't drive. 2, I'm good. 3, no. It's just gotta be that way. Soil says, my best local friend died because she was driving drunk to come to my house for Thanksgiving 2 years ago with her mom in the car. Her mom survived all because she couldn't just wait until she arrived. Yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And, you know, it's always when you least expect it. It's always when you least expect it. So that is exactly why, even though person A got home safe, morally, they are exactly as guilty as person B.
Implies can is one of the few philosophical principles that basically everybody agrees with. It just makes logical sense. And most people agree that since ought implies can, you can't be held morally responsible for situations that are out of your control. If someone cuts the brake lines of my car without my knowledge and that leads to me being in an accident, most people would say that I am not morally responsible for any injuries or damage that occur. Yes, I was still
right. Even though, Zippy, even though they might say that legally, that's your car and you're responsible for what happens, then, you know, it's still going to it's not going to change things morally.
Most people would say that I am not morally responsible for any injuries or damage that occur. Yes, I was still part of the chain of events that led to the damage, because if I hadn't decided to drive to that place at that time, the accident wouldn't have happened. But I can't be blamed for it. Now you see the distinction between causal responsibility, where you're one link in a chain of events, and moral responsibility, which means you deserve positive or negative judgment for what happened. But the concept of moral responsibility is reserved for moral agents. That is, those who have the ability to think in terms of right and wrong and to make decisions accordingly.
So this touches on the free will thing. You guys know that I don't believe that free will is a thing. That does not mean that agency does not exist. That is the for years I was hung up on this. You know, again, specifically because it was with the drug stuff, and I was like, if I don't have free will, this was after I had gotten out of doing that. I was like, if I don't have free will, which I now believe that cannot exist, then how is how is there a difference between if I saw some drugs in front of me a year ago, I would have done them no question. Now today, I wouldn't do it. And that's agency. That is not free will.
That is, those who have the ability to think in terms of right and wrong and to make decisions accordingly. If a coconut falls on my head, it is causally responsible for the lump that it gives me. But because it is an unthinking thing, it's not blameworthy in the way that you would be if you deliberately chucked a coconut at me. You are a moral agent. Coconut trees are not. Now, this looks pretty straightforward. But what if I'm aiming a coconut at a pyramid of bottles that I've set up for pitching practice?
Really quick. I saw this and it made me think of, actually, let me just show you in case you didn't watch it yesterday. Come on, where is it? No way. I had it right here. Hold on. It's going to be worth it. Okay. So, this made me think of this. I'm gonna want you fully surprised. So you may have heard in the indictment of Diddy that he had over 1,000 or he had 1,000 bottles of baby oil in his in a closet or in his house or whatever. When I saw what we just saw, this is what I thought of.
Bruh, it's 2:30 in the morning, and I could not sleep until I actually hopped in the blender to visualize this. This is 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
Oh, hell no.
This is insane.
That's too much, bro.
This is heinous, bruh. Like, literally 1,000? Like, bro, that's not a hyperbole.
That's 1,000. And then he did another video. I wish I'd saved it, but I forgot, where he's like, all right, do it, you know, for reference. So he did it like, you know, if you worked in a warehouse, if it would be on pallets, how many pallets it was. If you drive a truck, how big it would look in your truck. Stacked one on top of each other. It went all the way up to like a skyscraper. It just, that's what I thought of when I saw this. Sorry for that.
Straightforward.
But what I had to show you. Let's see. We got some. So the Soul said, would you say free will is more long-term thinking, akin to fate, and agency is more immediate choices and actions? Not necessarily. I do think that the agency is about immediate choices and actions, but I think long-term, So if we're talking about like, I want to take a sip of this because I'm thirsty, I have the agency to do that. But I could also decide, you know what, if I'm drinking every single night that I stream, then that's not good. So I want to dilute my drink with water so that because I'm sipping so much, then I'm not like getting drunk. That's more of long-term thinking. But both of those are just the agency of me being able to do that. The question of free will is, do I, in this universe, if everything as it is, do I have the opportunity to turn back the clock and not decide to dilute my drinks? Do I have the free will to go back and every atom in the universe is exactly the same, to not want to drink from the cup at that moment? And my answer is no, because the same reason that I was thirsty in that moment to take a sip, if we turn back the clock, I'm going to be just as thirsty. And I'm going to know just as well that there's a drink here. So there's no reason to think that just because we have agency to do different things, that there are not causally responsible things that come before that. So anything that you do is going to be based on something that came before that you didn't choose. And they were talking about causal responsibility. So if you think about the coconut, then there's always going to be a coconut. Whatever situation you're talking about, there's always going to be something that's outside of your control that then leads to a cause and effect thing. So I think the cause and effect, the effect is what we see, and how we do that is more of agency. But yeah. 1,000 bottles of baby oil on the wall. Oof, oof. Zippy said, "Diddy too cheap to buy lube. Baby oil causes infection." I don't think he cares about that. Hey, at least he had IVs for the party goers. The party goers. If Harris flat ass falls on you, does it mean the Democrats are demons? You know what? It just might. It just might. Anyway, what the fuck are we talking about here?
You are a moral agent.
Hey, yo, shout out to Funk Master General. Welcome to the party with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much. And of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Let's get that right here. Here you go, bud. Yummy. Thank you. What does Funk Master say? Said I won't be back until later. But that doesn't mean the Friday night $2 to $5 match isn't happening. So keep track and remember, the Wu-Tang Clan ain't nothing to fuck with. What a generous offer. Thank you so much. So anything up to $5 will be matched by Funkmaster General and get treats for Morty. Thank you so very much, sir. And of course, that makes you the new sponsor of the stream. Coming in hot, we also got Indie Film. Thank you. Another treat for Morty. So do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? Oh, Kamala. And remember that this is 7 years old. So the serendipity there, I'm just loving it. Both of you. Thank you so very much. And of course, Morty very much appreciates the treats. We got some bacon flavor. Bacon flavor. Get it? You know what? And there he is, keeping on his word. Thank you. Oh my goodness. It's gonna be a good night, guys. It's gonna be a good night. Can we get to the peanut butter? If we reach $50 in donations, Morty is going to get to go to town on my almost empty peanut butter jar that I can't get anything with the spoon, but he definitely will be able to get on in there. Thank you, gentlemen. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated.
Coconut trees are not. Now, this looks pretty straightforward, but what if I'm aiming a coconut at a pyramid of bottles that I've set up for pitching practice and you suddenly run in front of me and the coconut hits you instead? Or what if you're standing near my target and I just have really bad aim? Thinking back to our drunk drivers, if we're only morally responsible for what's in our control, then it looks like A and B are equally morally blameworthy. Because B couldn't help that a child ran into the road, just like I couldn't help it if you ran in front of my coconut. So let's now take another angle on moral responsibility over in the thought.
So before we go over to the thought bubble, I think that's a great comparison to say that if I'm throwing a coconut at at those bottles that are not baby oil, and you just happen to walk in the way, then that doesn't mean that I'm morally responsible. I'm causally responsible for it because I did throw the coconut. But because of the intention, I didn't know you were going to be there. And so just because driver A got home with no with no issue doesn't mean that he morally did anything different than driver B. Let's head to the thought bubble.
With some flash philosophy. We often think that what makes something wrong is that it causes harm. But consider this creepy scenario. Imagine you're changing in a store's dressing room, and outside there's some creep who takes pictures of you and you never know it.
Well, this is, just how most stores work in California, but
this creep shares the pictures with his creepy friends. They don't know who you are, and you experience no ill effects, no uncomfortableness of any kind because you never know the pictures were taken. So here's a couple of questions. Were you harmed? And did the creeps do anything wrong?
Yes, consent matters. So I would say my reputation would be harmed. Unless you got the front side. You know what I'm saying? My reputation would be harmed by having nude pictures out there. And then, of course, the creeps did something wrong by I'm drawing a blank. Stamping on infringing. There we go. Infringing on my consent to determine whether or not I would like to be photographed naked. Anybody disagree?
Were taken. So here's a couple of questions. Were you harmed? And did the creeps do anything wrong? It's hard to see how you were harmed by the pictures because harm seems to be the type of thing that has to be experienced in order for it to exist. But most
go into work the next day and it's going to exist.
People would agree that the creeps did do wrong, that a violation of privacy is still a violation even if you don't know that it happened. The possibility that harm and wrongdoing are actually two different things might not have occurred to you before. But when you think about it, it seems pretty right. The fallen coconut could harm me without anyone having done wrong.
The glasses.
Think about it. It seems pretty right. The fallen coconut could harm me without anyone having done wrong. And likewise, wrongdoing doesn't have to lead to anyone being harmed.
So they were trying to say that there would be no harm to you. So I think he just said that. So maybe I misheard. Did he say they were only going to share it to their friends?
Takes pictures of you. Imagine you're changing in a store's dressing room, and outside there's some creep who takes pictures of you.
I appreciate that they make the women see you would not see this today. You would not see this today. Just by default, even if it wasn't a political thing, you would not see the creeps being women and the victim being a man. You just don't see that anymore. But okay, so it's I'm questioning where's the pictures going.
You and you never know it. This creep shares the pictures with his creepy friends. They don't know who you are, and you experience no ill effects, no uncomfortableness of any kind because you never know the pictures were taken.
Okay, but so for the purposes of the point that he's trying to make, let's just change it to again, maybe I'm thinking that 7 years ago, blasting nudes out from people wasn't something they would necessarily think. But that's obviously something that happens. So let's assume that the creeps took the pictures, showed it amongst each other, and then deleted it. In that case, were you harmed? Let's make that a poll. So right now we've got the running poll is true justice actually achievable? And 83% of you said no. Wow, that's a bleak picture. I tend to agree. There's always, whichever way you focus things, I think on a micro scale, you can definitely have situations where, justice was had and the scales of justice were balanced. But on a broad scale, there's always winners and losers who don't I forgot what I was going to say. What the hell was I just saying? Oh, justice. Yeah, there's always going to be people that fall through the cracks. Okay, so were you harmed if the picture was deleted? Well, let's go with that. Were you harmed in this scenario if the pictures were deleted? So it was shown around to their friends, and then the picture was deleted. So it's not going out anywhere. And let's assume for this purpose that for sure there's no leak. It's just they took the picture of you, and and they deleted it. We got Aim in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the party. Good to see you. Good opportunity to jump back and kind of just start this over again.
Pictures of you.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Thought Bubble. So this is our situation.
Imagine you're changing in a store's dressing room, and outside there's some creep who takes pictures of you and you never know it. This creep shares the pictures with his creepy friends.
And so we've changed the situation to shared with the friends that are here, but then deletes the picture.
They don't know who you are, and you experience no ill effects, no uncomfortableness of any kind because you never know the pictures were taken. So here's a couple of questions. Were you harmed? And did the creeps do anything wrong? It's hard to see.
So we already agreed that the creeps obviously did something wrong, but were you harmed? Indie Film said yes. And I'm going to assume, okay, now we got 2 votes. Yeah, so we got 1 yes. I'll keep that up for a little while. But were you harmed if the picture was deleted?
How you were harmed by the pictures, because harm seems to be the type of thing that has to be experienced in order for it to exist. But
So that's why I changed it, because if the picture is sent out, then there's obvious harm. But if the picture is deleted, then I don't know. No. Now you're adding other things in. Can't do that. No, it is you. You are not a 12-year-old girl. You are a Gen X man. So that's the situation. It didn't say imagine you are a 12-year-old girl. It said imagine you. So it is you.
Pictures, because harm seems to be the type of thing that has to be experienced in order for it to exist. But most people would agree that the creeps did do wrong, that a violation of privacy is still a violation even if you don't know that it happened. The possibility that harm and wrongdoing are actually 2 different things might not have occurred to you before, but when you think about it, it seems pretty right. The falling coconut could harm me without anyone having done wrong, and likewise, wrongdoing doesn't have to lead to anyone being harmed. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So the distinction between doing wrong and causing harm, just like the case of our drunk drivers A and B, is probably making you realize that the issue of moral praise and blame is trickier than you thought.
Not quite that simple. Zippy says Seabass is a 12-year-old tap dancer. Oh, good old Seabass. Good old Seabass. Put a 1 in the chat if you think he will return one day. Will he return? We will see. Oh my goodness, what do we got here? What do we got here? Shout out to Giggling Spy with a $5 Rumble rant. Thank you so very, very much, sir. And of course, that gets a treat for Morty. And Giggling Spy said, let's go. Thank you very, very much, sir. Very much appreciated. And Indy's 1 for sure.
Probably making you realize that the issue of moral praise and blame is trickier than you thought. Thomas Nagel thinks a key to figuring this out is to look deeper into the different aspects of our actions, ones that are both in and out of our control. These external factors can affect the moral quality of our actions, he says, and he describes their effects in terms of different kinds of luck. Constitutive luck, for example, is luck that has to do with our own constitution, our
Constitutive luck has to do with our own
disposition or personality. We all have different temperaments. Some of us are more prone to anger and others are easygoing. Some seem to be naturally generous while others have to remind themselves to share. Now, we can definitely work against these dispositions that we have, and good parents and teachers will help us do this as we grow up. But Nagel says that doesn't change the fact that some of us have to work really hard not to be greedy, cranky, or antisocial, while others are just naturally gifted with a tendency toward harmony and generosity. Then there's circumstantial luck. This relates to the situation you find yourself in and plays a huge role in whether you manage to do good or bad things. It's easy to blame the officer in the concentration camp and to praise the 9/11 firefighter. But what would have happened if that firefighter had been a member of the German military in 1933, or if that SS officer had been a firefighter living in New York City in 2001? Our circumstances play a really strong role in our actions.
And guess what we don't choose, guys? Our circumstances. So the soul said, sorry, not sorry. That would cause me at least some nervousness, paranoia, anxiety. In my book, that's at least a type of harm, if not physical or automatically apparent. And I'm a 41-year-old woman. Why? What would cause you nervousness, paranoia, and anxiety? You're not aware that the picture was taken. So for all you know, this did happen to you. Are you nervous, paranoid, and anxious about it? I mean, obviously, if you see that it happened, that changes the situation. But again, in the circumstance, you never know about it. You never even know, and it doesn't get blasted out. It's just those 3 people, and then the picture's deleted. And says we can generalize as much as possible, but nuance is constant. The only way to try to achieve justice is to view without bias, but that seems to be the opposite of what we're teaching now. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I don't have any disagreement at all. Well said.
Living in New York City in 2001. Our circumstances play a really strong role in our actions. An ordinary person given the chance to be a hero might step up, but that same person might also take an opportunity to become a monster if it's offered in the right way.
Right. And what does Jordan Peterson always talk about? That number one, we all have the I'm at a loss for words today. The propensity, the possibility for violence, and that there's no such thing as being moral, being good, if there's no badness to fight back. If you are incapable of doing bad things, then you are not a morally good person. You are a morally neutral person. Yeah, okay. So yeah. If you get, obviously if they're like, yeah, that's definitely gonna fuck with you. But if you have no idea that the picture was taken and nobody aside from those people ever see it, that was the situation. All good. Yeah. All good.
But that same person might also take an opportunity to become a monster if it's offered in the right way. Nagel says there's also luck due to antecedent circumstances. In other words, your character is shaped by things that have happened to you.
Again, things that you don't choose. Am said it's hard to view something as simplistic as this scenario as harmful. You can walk behind a couple taking a photo in the street. Plus, if you have social media, your privacy is already breached. And end up on that other couple's photo. But I think the point here is that if you're out in public, there's an expectation that this may happen. When you're in a changing room, that expectation is the opposite. That I think is the difference. But if we're specifically talking about harm, then like Soya was saying, that if you're aware of it, then now that's going to affect your perception of your privacy and all that stuff. So that's definitely going to affect it. But if you don't know, then like we said, maybe that's already happened to you, because you don't know. All good.
Antecedent circumstances. In other words, your character is shaped by things that have happened to you. Some people get a lot of breaks in life, while others face hard knocks that lead them to viciousness. People can come out of the best
like me from the school of hard knocks
possible environment and still be total jerks. And amazing people can rise out of terrible circumstances. But where you come from isn't in your control, and it has an undeniable role in who you're going to become.
So I really wasn't going here. But if that's the case, actually, I'll keep those on. If that's the case, what he just said, how could we say that free will exists? Listen again.
Isn't total jerks, and amazing people can rise out of terrible circumstances.
Listen to this.
But where you come from isn't in your control, and it has an undeniable role in who you're going to become.
Where you come from isn't in your control, and it has an undeniable role in who you're going to become. If that is the case, then how could you possibly have free will? Kitty is stuffed. Dinner was good. Yummy.
And finally, Nagel says, there's luck regarding consequent circumstances. That's the way your actions actually turn out. Sometimes the best intentions fall flat, and awful plans can produce something that's unexpectedly awesome.
I don't know how often that does happen. But they do say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Don't cheer for the person who fails to save someone's life, even if they tried just as hard as the person who succeeded. This is why.
Wait, what?
Do something that's unexpectedly awesome. We don't cheer for the person who fails to save someone's life, even if they tried just as hard as the person who succeeded.
I mean, I don't know if I would agree with that. I think people would be celebratory, but to his point that, if you the same action of trying to save somebody versus and succeeding versus failing morally and with your intentions, you're doing exactly the same thing. And obviously, while your efforts, for effort, they might say good job on trying, but if you actually succeed, now you're a hero. When given the circumstances, if it's not something you were able to do, then why should that change? You should be just as celebrated either way.
This is why most of us find it pretty hard to blame A as much as we blame B.
And again, if you're just joining us, we had the early situation where there's two people at a party. There's person A, person B, both at the same party, both drunk, both get behind the wheel. Person A makes it home safe. Person B hits and kills a child on the road on the way home. And we're asking who is more to blame or who did morally worse. And again, going back to that same thing, essentially, they made exactly the same moral decisions. It's just that person A, who didn't hit the child, got morally a little bit more lucky.
This is why most of us find it pretty hard to blame A as much as we blame B, because the fact remains, B's actions left a child dead and A's didn't. So Nagel argues that all of these factors affect the morality of our actions. But if they're out of our control, does moral praise and blame even make sense? In this light, it looks like usually we shouldn't assign any praise or blame. And even when we should assign less than we do. After all,
I think I agree with that in general, in the sense that, given the examples that we were just given, that, based on external factors, people who do things that we would cheer for or boo, whether it's saving somebody or driving drunk, based on the external factors, I do think that we need to take that into account. But I think the fact of the matter is that I apologize if it was Am or Soil. I think it was Am who said that nuance is a constant. And so being prepared for those nuances is a practical reality that has to be dealt with. So as much as, again, morally, when we see the person that's trying to save somebody's life and we have a different reaction based on the outcome, while that may not be fair, I don't know if that is wrong. I feel like that serves some kind of communal purpose. I can't put my finger on it, but maybe we'll get there. Maybe we'll get there. I don't know. You guys, am I making sense? Agree? Disagree? What do you think?
Any praise or blame. And even when we should assign less than we do. After all, if ought implies can, then we should only be blamed for the aspects of our actions that are in our control, and external factors shouldn't be considered. So by this logic, Nagel says the two drunk drivers should be blamed equally. Now, maybe that just seems wrong to you. Maybe you believe that praise and blame are only partially about assigning responsibility for people's actions. Perhaps you think we should still praise and blame people because it's important for society at large.
That's where I'm coming from. That social, the social effects of what we incentivize and what we make shameful or taboo definitely makes a difference in how people behave. So I'm right. That's where I'm at.
In this view, it's okay, even right, to assign praise and blame for things that are outside of a person's control. For example, we want to shun drunk drivers because of the harm that they do, so we'd like to blame every one of them. But if someone makes it home safely, we don't necessarily know they drove drunk, so they can't be blamed.
Right. And I understand that by saying that, having admitted to driving drunk and on other things, that theoretically I should have those penalties. But that's a legal argument, so nah. But morally, yeah, I don't feel any I don't feel like I have a moral position higher than any person who's ever driven drunk, whether it's led to other consequences, whether you got arrested for it, whether you hurt somebody, whether you damage property. Morally, that's all the same. And this is where we're starting to get into the separation between morality and legality. They should be related and intertwined, but they're not the same thing.
But if someone makes it home safely, We don't necessarily know they drove drunk, so they can't be blamed. We can make examples of the ones we do catch, and assign them loads of blame, even though the ones who didn't get caught are really just as blameworthy. And it works the same way with praise. It's in our interest to make heroes out of people who risk their lives to save others, whether they succeed or not, because we want to encourage that kind of behavior in society. So we praise the behavior when we see it, even though it's the disposition, the intention to do good, that actually deserves praise. So in this view, praise and blame isn't really about moral responsibility at all. It's just about encouraging and discouraging different behaviors, which could explain why you might think B should go to jail, while A, well, A just got morally lucky.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the fact that sometimes you're just going to get lucky. There's mainly because I have been on the beneficiary side of that luck. Sometimes, not others. But I think that's just a part of reality that, like Zippy, you love to talk about how nature is chaos. I think that is absolutely a part of this. Yeah, I don't really know how you get around that. Moral luck is just a factor that we have to pay attention to. So let's actually get down and dirty and jump into what is justice.
Justice is one of those things that people talk about all the time without really being specific about what they mean.
What is it that you mean here?
Activists talk about economic justice, police and lawyers talk about criminal justice, parents, teachers, and students talk about justice a lot too, though they may never use that word. When there's a fight on the playground or you get a grade you think you don't deserve, we find ourselves talking about what's fair. And that is talking about justice. And we think we know what it is, but we probably don't, or at least we don't agree. Is justice about equality, fairness, getting what we deserve, or getting what we need?
That's an interesting starting point. Was justice about equality? Is it about fairness? Is it about getting what we deserve, or about getting what we need? Or obviously, all of the above, or neither. Is justice about equality? I do think there's an aspect of equality and fairness, and definitely what at least we think we deserve. And I think getting what we need is probably the lowest function or the lowest association people will have with justice. Shout out to John. Welcome to the party. He said, ain't nothing like the smell of social justice in the morning. Good one. Welcome to the party. He said, moral is how you deal with what? Moral is how you deal with chaos in a moral way. Are you asking me a question, or are you telling me something? Because there's no question in what you've asked, in what you've put a question mark after. If you're telling me, okay, cool. Yeah, agreed. Amp said justice is supposed to be fair treatment under the law. So let's put that let's put the law aspect aside. Let's take justice as more of like a cosmic justice. Because I agree with you when we come to the law, but before we can make laws about justice, we have to first determine what is just and how can we go about that. So let's put the law to the side for a second and just think about what cosmically is justice, or more, even if you want to think about poetic justice. But let's tack on the exactly, yeah, kind of like the concept of karma. That is very closely tied to what we're talking about. So yeah, in this instance for now, when we're talking about justice, we're more or less talking about the common usage of how people talk about karma. Zippy says, depend on how you infer equality. Equality should mean fairness, but liberal word creep. Yep, that linguistic creep. Fairness and equality. What does that really mean? So, packed question here. Yeah, I think all of these are equality, fairness, getting what you deserve, and getting what you need are all part of that justice. But I think, again, that getting what we need, when we think about justice, especially when we bring it back into the legal aspect, getting what we need is probably the lowest on that list. But yeah, I think all of the above. Zippy said, moral is how you fairly deal with your own actions. You mean justice is how you fairly deal with your own actions? I would be closer aligned with that. Because dealing with your own morality usually has the connotation of interacting with other people. So I don't know that Mississippi said drunk driving drunk driving is unfair to you and the world. Sure. And so that makes it unfair. So because it's unfair, that makes it immoral to do it. And so justice then would be, yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, let's dial back and see if they can get us anywhere.
Sometimes we talk about balancing the scales of justice. This goes back.
The scales of justice. I think that's a good thumbnail. I don't know about y'all, but even if I take away the thing last time, so when I'm retarded. What was I gonna say? Last time, I did a different thumbnail because we had the old Philosophy Friday, just random thing, and then I was putting the numbers on it. Last time I did it, and we got more views, so I was like, all right, let me use fresh thumbnails, and then this one I added the number 9 so that we could see that we are still doing our thing.
Or getting what we need. Sometimes we talk about balancing the scales of justice. This goes back to an ancient Greek understanding of justice as harmony. In this view,
harmony. Okay, yeah, that's another good way to think about it. Harmony, all things working as they should. So maybe there's an aspect of again that should, the way things should work. What is that, and how do we achieve that? She's not blind. That's ableism. No, it's not. Saying that she couldn't do something because she's blind would be ableism. But saying she's blind is just facts.
This goes back to an ancient Greek understanding of justice as harmony. In this view, a just society is one in which everyone fulfills their roles so that society runs smoothly.
I like it.
In that case, violating your place in the social order, even if it's a place you don't want to hold, is considered unjust.
Violating your place in the social order. So what does that mean? That means like, going in and stealing stuff just because you can, and instead of knowing that, laws aside, that's not the right thing to do. That would be unjust.
Other times, justice has been understood in a more utilitarian way, where a just society is one that tries to increase the overall quality of life for its citizens. And for a political libertarian, a just society is simply one that allows its citizens to be maximally free. So which is it? Is justice buying a meal for someone in need? Is it sending a criminal to jail? Is it doling out rewards and punishments based on merit? The reason people talk...
Right. So what was his first example? Getting a sandwich for a homeless person. I don't know if that really applies to justice, because even though that man needs food, it's not your moral responsibility to feed him. I don't know. Interesting. Yeah.
Criminal to jail. So which is it? Is justice buying a meal for someone in need?
I would say no. I don't think that has to do with justice. Obviously, it's a good thing, but I would say no, that's not justice.
Is it sending a criminal to jail?
That definitely is justice. You did wrong, and so now you pay the price, or at the very least, you did wrong, so now we are removing you so that you can't do more wrong.
Is it doling out rewards and punishments based on merit?
I think that is the other side of it. I think that's the other side of it. Yeah, so that's charity, not justice. Yeah, it's a good thing. Nobody's saying it's not a good or at least, a well-intentioned thing. But I don't know. I think it's just kind of categorically not really what we're talking about. Agreed. But then, yeah, doling out rewards and punishments based on merit. I like that one better. That's more encompassing because it has the positive aspect of rewarding things that merit reward and punishing things that merit punishing. And that gets us back to like the harmony. Exactly. And said harmony is a state of agreement and balance between different elements. So essentially duality to different degrees. Yeah. And I mean, it wouldn't be duality because that's two, but it would be that aspect of near infinite degrees. Agreed. So he said a just action is a positive action. Justice is the end result to a negative situation. So you would say no. that is justice? Is it doling out rewards and punishment based on merit? You would say no, that's not justice, because justice has to do with a negative situation. What would you say? Shout out to Michael. Welcome to the party. We are trying to figure out what is justice. What is justice? Let me back this up a little bit for you. We are all thinking about what the hell is going. Actually, we'll just go all the way back here.
Is justice about equality, fairness, getting what we deserve, or getting what we need?
So again, I was saying I think these all have to do with justice, but I do think getting what we need is the least thing, the thing that people least associate with justice.
Sometimes we talk about balancing the scales of justice. This goes back to an ancient Greek understanding of justice as harmony. In this view, a just society.
Yeah, not just the social justice. I mean, we want social justice, but we don't want social justice warriors. Those are the, so Am said it's duality because it's good and bad, happy, sad, black and white. The degree of each is in the infinite variable. Okay, fair enough. I'll take it.
To an ancient Greek understanding of justice as harmony. In this view, a just society is one in which everyone fulfills their roles so that society runs smoothly. In that case, violating your place in the social order, even if it's a place you don't want to hold, is considered unjust. Other times, justice has been understood in a more utilitarian way, where a just society is one that tries to increase the overall quality of life for its citizens. And for a political libertarian, a just society is simply one that allows its citizens to be maximally free. So which is it? Is justice buying a meal for someone in need?
So again, we're saying no, buying a meal for somebody in need is not justice. It's not wrong. It's just what justice means.
Is it sending a criminal to jail?
Yes, that is definitely a manifestation of justice, but that is not what justice is.
Is it doling out rewards and punishments based on merit?
And so Zippy says that justice is the end result to a negative situation. Therefore, it could not be the doling out of rewards. So Zippy says rewards for merit is more rewards and payments, not justice. Without a negative to create just actions to oppose it, you cannot gain justice. Luck is your lot in life. It has nothing to do with justice. Sure. But so would you say, I'm gonna, because I disagree with you, because I do think that rewarding somebody for something that they've done is just. I don't know. I've started that. I'm gonna sit on that. I guess is that I assume you're gonna drop a definition. Because how does this definition sound? It sounds great. All right, what are we talking about here?
It's sending a criminal to jail? Is it doling out rewards and punishments based on merit? The reason people talk about justice all the time is that it's one of the most fundamental social, ethical, and moral principles we deal with every day. And in the end, what justice means to you personally pretty much defines how you think society should work.
It might have been that it might have been that YouTube censorship. Yeah, they take the most random words. Like, no, you can't say that. I don't know what it is. And I learned, I didn't know that like they did that at all until multiple times I would try to send a super chat, and I think to like bigger channels to try to get attention and stuff, and like I like words like chat, DM, email, all these kinds of words. I think along with some of the other words are they try to dissuade you from advertising yourself in super chats, which I think is a dumb idea because they would make more money. But I don't know. We are live on Rumble. If you do want to, I'll drop that link right here. If you they ain't got no thing that you can't say. But just do me a favor, keep the YouTube tab open. You know those analytics, right? Am said for every 70% good thing, there's a 30% bad thing on a huge scale with moving parts like the world. I would think that external influence impacts the harmony. definitely the come on, what happened here? So I agree with the second part. The external influence impacts the harmony, but for every 70% good thing, there's a 30% bad thing. Can you show your work on that? What exactly do you mean? So somebody said rewards rewards are just, but just is a positive actions. A positive action. Justice is more a balancing process that scrapes together balance to create optimal outcome. I mean, I saw that one. I got this, and that from you. That Amber is saying zero sum game. Gotcha. For every 70% good thing, there's a 30% bad thing on a huge scale with moving parts like the world. Okay. All right. I'm gonna start this one too. I'm not really sure, but what fully what. I mean, I know what a zero sum game is, but
You might have already noticed this, but when people talk about justice, a lot of the time they're really talking about stuff, like who has more stuff, whether that's money, food, or access to services like healthcare and sanitation.
okay, but access to sanitation and healthcare, that's not really stuff. But okay, nitpicking.
Who gets to decide who gets what and on what basis? The area of moral philosophy that considers these questions is known as distributive justice, and there are many different schools of thought here. For example, some people believe that everyone should get the same kind and amount of stuff no matter what.
What is happening? Why are my buttons not working? No, my sound deck's not working. I was just gonna be like, eh. We don't want that. We don't want that. That is equity. That is equity, and it is no bueno. Give me 1 second. I don't know what is going on. You'd be surprised how much I rely on these sounds. All right, let's see. Sorry. Okay.
People believe that everyone should get the same kind and amount of stuff no matter what.
That's an idea of equity, and I'm not sure I would equate that with justice. I said, shit, me too.
This concept is known as justice as equality. It sounds totally fair, but is everyone getting the same stuff really justice? Because I need or want different kinds and amounts of stuff than you do. So there's also the idea of need-based justice. This says everyone shouldn't get the same because our needs aren't the same.
Hold on, guys. I need to do a restart here because this is gonna bug me. Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna switch to my phone. And I see you guys got some stuff to talk about already. I am addicted to my Stream Deck. Enter studio. Sorry, guys. Struggle streaming. The struggle is real. So I want to stop that. For some, that may seem more bad on a large scale. There's something that balances it out. There you go. Gotcha. Zippy said, "Okay, I hear stuffs. So hopefully we are good. Let's see. It's my last try. If we don't, man, I'm gonna be really mad. It's not coming up. Oh, why? Okay. All right. All right. No stream deck tonight. No stream deck tonight. It does, right? It's wild how some of these things can be really complex but also really simple at the same time. It's kind of a where am I? It's kind of been a duality, eh? So all right, let's jump into where we were here.
Many different schools of thought here. For example, some people believe that everyone should get the same kind and amount of stuff no matter what. This concept is known as justice as equality. It sounds totally fair, but is everyone getting the same stuff really justice? Because I need or want different kinds and amounts of stuff than you do. So there's also the idea of need-based justice. This says everyone shouldn't get the same because our needs aren't the same.
Okay, I mean, I agree that our needs aren't the same, but that still shouldn't be. Again, it should be merit-based justice. No, life isn't just. Very, very, very true. Very true. Welcome to the party.
By this logic, justice is getting based on what we need. So those who need more get more. And some say that this makes sense, while others argue that it amounts to favoring some people over others, putting those who happen to not be in need at a disadvantage. And if that's how you look at things, then you probably espouse some kind of merit-based.
There you go. Merit-based justice. That is what we are. Forced vote thing. That is what we're talking about. Justice actually means giving unequally based on what each person deserves. Yeah, communists, they don't like this one. They do not like this one. That was definitely nope.
Need at a disadvantage. And if that's how you look at things, then you probably espouse some kind of merit-based justice, which says that justice actually means giving unequally based on what each person deserves. And you deserve stuff or don't based on what you've done. So this view rewards hard work and punishes troublemakers. Finally, there's the very simple-sounding approach advanced by 20th century American political philosopher John Rawls. He argued that justice is fairness. Any inequalities that exist in a social system, Rawls said, should favor the least well-off, because this levels the playing field of society. This is a form of need-based justice that focuses specifically on making sure that everyone is actually in a position to achieve their basic needs. Rawls reasoned that the world is full of natural inequalities. Think of all the things we talked about when we discussed moral luck. A lot of factors that will shape your life are totally out of your control. So Rawls' sense of justice means correcting for those disadvantages that are beyond our control. Once again, there are some who argue that justice is fairness is actually unfair to those who have gotten the most, either through hard work or because they happened to win life's natural lottery. 20th century American philosopher Robert Nozick disagreed with Rawls' idea that justice is fairness.
So, the varying degrees of duality in nature, success and failure, is influenced by effort. That's where I would give you a ding if my stream deck was working, and it is not. Oh wait, no. Okay. Absolutely. When you put in less, you get less. Indeed. Chaos loves luck. It's tasty. Yummy.
20th century American philosopher Robert Nozick disagreed with Rawls' idea that justice is fairness. And to demonstrate why, he posed a thought experiment about professional basketball, which we will explore in the thought bubble with some flash philosophy. Wilt Chamberlain was a wildly popular basketball player when Nozick created this example. So Nozick said, what if Chamberlain, probably the most famous athlete of his day,
bro, it really seems like that. I mean, StreamYard's fine. It's the stream deck. It's not even showing me my buttons anymore. I have the app. I have the app open, and everything's there. I don't know why it's not letting me do anything. I restarted the entire computer. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. This fucking thing has been a pain in my fucking ass ever since I got this computer. When I was working off my fucking laptop, plugged it in, and it worked perfectly fine. Now, randomly, it just wouldn't work to begin with. So we have it playing out the fucking speaker. Let's just get back to the thought bubble.
some flash philosophy. Wilt Chamberlain was a wildly popular basketball player when Nozick created this example, so Nozick said, what if Chamberlain, probably the most famous athlete of his day, decided that he'd only play under certain conditions? Suppose that Chamberlain decides that tickets for games he plays in should cost 25 cents more than games he doesn't play in. And what's more, Chamberlain will be paid $100,000 more than the other players. Now, Chamberlain is really popular, so everyone knows that more people will show up to see a game he's playing in, even if the tickets cost more. Since he is the draw, isn't he entitled to ask for more money than his teammates? Nozick argued that we can't and shouldn't try to even out the naturally uneven playing field here. Sure, we start out with unequal amounts of stuff, but Nozick said we're each entitled to the stuff we have, provided we didn't steal it or otherwise obtain it unjustly.
Basic ownership and capitalistic ideas works for me.
So if you're the world's most famous basketball player, you are entitled to have and want more stuff, even if others don't have it. If Chamberlain
That's where I would hit the button.
his awesomeness at basketball lets him amass a bunch of wealth while other people go hungry, well, that's not Wilt's fault. Thanks, Thought Bubble. As you can see, there is a
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is just the way of the world. You, as Amp said, you know, the less when you put in less, you get less. When you put in more, you get more.
lot of disagreement about what it means to distribute justly. And this is an incredibly important topic because a lot of what we argue about politically has to do exactly with this issue. People who believe that there are essential human rights, for example, argue that we're simply entitled to have our most basic needs fulfilled. Things like having enough to eat and being able to go to the doctors when we're sick. But not everyone believes it's the government's job to provide us with those things if we're not able to get them ourselves. Those people might argue that your rights are negative. A negative right is the right not to be interfered with, not to be stopped from pursuing the things you need.
Like speech, like owning firearms. These things are, if they impede on it, that is, well, I guess that's not a negative right. So what? I guess we'll have to hear the example. Yeah, I want to follow. So this example is great for the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. She wants all the money, but is she getting any of the views?
Is the right not to be interfered with, not to be stopped from pursuing the things you need. So in this view, I can't prevent you from trying to fulfill your needs, but I don't have to help you fulfill them either. By contrast, you might believe in positive rights. If you have a positive right to something, you are entitled to help getting it if you can't get it yourself.
If you have a positive right to something, then you're entitled to get it if you can't get it yourself. Yeah, okay, I think I'm with that.
So if you can't afford a doctor, you have a right to get assistance in affording one. But
well, maybe not in that particular example. It would depend on what exactly, I mean, you have the right to water, but you don't have the right to other people's labor. So your rights end when other people's begin. So maybe, I don't know, bad example?
You can't get it yourself. So if you can't afford a doctor, you have a right to get assistance in affording one. But notice that in this view, a right implies an obligation. Your rights, in this case, your right to see a doctor, even if you can't afford one, might make obligatory demands on me because I might end up helping to pay for it. Of course, someone like Nozick would ask,
let's go! It's back. I don't know what happened. Will we celebrate? That took up way too much of my attention. Way too much of my attention. That's what anxiety does. All right. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. For those of you who know, while I got mad at my mom, preparation. Preparation. I was prepared to have the buttons, and when the buttons are not prepared, even though it's not a big deal, with the lack of preparation, that fucks with me. All right. Moving on.
rights, in this case, your right to see, I might end up helping to pay for it. Of course, someone like Nozick would ask, where would such a right come from? How could I?
Well, somebody might say, God. Why do they move the buttons around? Oh my God.
Incur an obligation to help you just because I'm better off than you are. Sure, it might be nice if I helped, but it's certainly not a duty, and no one should compel me to do it. But that's exactly what the government does when it takes taxes from those who have more in order to assist those who have less. So you see what I mean? When people...
Hey, shout out to Unwanted Foe for the $2 super chat. Said donated 5 of my social credit score to you. Well, thank you very, very, very much. That ESG score is right on the line. Very much appreciated, sir. Very, very, very much so. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So the soul said, I tried to send that 3 times before it's sent. Issues tonight. Damn, what is going on? At least it's not just me. At least it's not just me. We are struggle streaming together. Let's do it. We got it. Am said, you can't say something is a human right if it depends on someone else to provide it. There you go. There you go. I think that's where, like, everything that if you need it, you should be able to get it. Yes, as long as it doesn't require somebody else to provide it. Because you have the right to the air you breathe, the water that's in streams and stuff like that. But you don't have the right to, McDonald's. And so this is why they say trans rights are human rights is BS. Because that means it's their right to get surgeries and a treatment paid for by someone else, taxes, and we don't fucks with that. We don't fucks with that.
Takes taxes from those who have more in order to assist those who have less. So you see what I mean? When people talk about taxes and healthcare and income inequality, they're really talking about justice. But of course, a lot of the time, justice isn't at all about stuff. It's also about punishment. Like most subjects, philosophers disagree about the most appropriate way to respond to wrongdoing. One concept is known as retributive justice. This holds that the only way for justice to be satisfied is for a wrongdoer to suffer in proportion to the way he's made others suffer. This is your good old-fashioned biblical eye for an eye justice. And in this view, punishment is supposed to hurt. That's the only way to make things right. Historically, this would mean things like if you cause physical harm to someone, your punisher must do the same thing to you.
And we've definitely seen how, like, that may have an emotional factor in the victim, depending on the circumstances. In terms of improving society, that doesn't really do much. So, Am disagrees. Am disagrees. I don't think it's a very I don't think it's a good mentality to have this eye for an eye type of mentality. I think it's perfectly fine to want to see somebody who has done wrong pay some consequences, but it's just unless it's something really extreme. Like if somebody stole from you, how does it help the situation for you to, beat them up instead of them being arrested? I think both of those things are strong enough deterrents that we can go with the least severe but effective deterrent. Stephen Colbert said, we normally misjudge what people deserve, presuming causa sui consciousness, but we still want to incentivize behavior that improves society and disincentivizes what harms. It's more about best consequences. Yep. Agreed. Agreed. What do you mean? So when you said I believe in that, you're saying you believe in what he just said, or what is that? What is that?
Punishment is supposed to hurt. That's the only way to make things right. Historically, this would mean things like if you cause physical harm to someone, your punisher must do the same thing to you. Today, though, in the interest of being civilized, we tend to mete out the pain in terms of incarceration and fines rather than straight up tit for tat.
And so that's what I'm saying, is that I think that's a better way to go about things.
But still, just retribution is one of the driving philosophical forces behind capital punishment. The idea that there's simply no way to right the wrong of taking a life other than by taking the life of the life taker. But utilitarians have other theories of punishment. Rather than making wrongdoers suffer for suffering's sake, these thinkers favor what's known as welfare maximization.
Welfare maximization. We will get into that. But Am said, if you steal, you should be required to repay with your belongings or something of equal value. Okay. And then, I mean, so what if you, so let's play that out. So let's say, obviously, the most common argument about theft is that you don't have the money to pay for the things that you need. So let's go to the Aladdin example of the man stealing a loaf of bread to feed his family. He gets caught. He doesn't have the bread or the money to repay. So what do we do there? That's what I'm saying. Like, and even if you have other stuff, like let's say you steal something worth $3,000 and you have $7,000 worth of equipment in your house. Does that mean that you're gonna, you know what I mean? I don't know that that's like, I don't disagree with the sentiment, but if we're speaking now, back into the legal aspect of things, like again, morally, I don't see an issue with what you're saying, but legally, how do we get there? Zippy said, violent criminals, rapists go bye-bye. Dumb censorship. Theft pays in time served. Yeah, I think, whether it's fines or time served, I think that's a better way than, like chopping off people's hands, which is usually what they do to the Aladdins. And that's, a legitimate circumstance of somebody doing something that is illegal but not immoral. So how would you play that out?
But utilitarians have other theories of punishment. Rather than making wrongdoers suffer for suffering's sake, these thinkers favor what's known as welfare maximization. In this view, there's no good to be found in vindictively causing pain to wrongdoers, but some form of punishment is still in order. So one option is rehabilitation. Here, the approach is to give wrongdoers help so they can learn how to get along in society and follow its rules.
And again, like I was saying, getting what people need, oftentimes rehabilitation, is one of the lowest priorities. Understandably so, but we definitely would have less recidivism if the rehabilitation aspect of the justice system was relevant. Zippy says, community service is the best way to deal with petty crime. I agree, actually. That's it. Yeah, 100% agree.
The approach is to give wrongdoers help so they can learn how to get along in society and follow its rules. The focus is often on education and, if needed, therapy. This is sometimes criticized as being paternalistic because it carries with it the assumption that wrongdoers are in need of our help, that they don't know any better, and that they need to be cured of some social disease.
And of course, there's people who are just like, fuck it, I know what's right and wrong, and I don't care, and I'm going to do wrong things. But if that's already not a deterrent, then that doesn't work anyway. So the people who are too far gone to be rehabilitated in the first place, obviously rehabilitation is not going to work on them. But for most other people, it does seem like focusing on ways to do things better is a good use of time and resources. Am said, why does that matter? Why in those cases do we have to make additional accommodation because they don't have it? They know they don't have it, so why did they take it? Because they're hungry. Why it matters is because you said if you steal, you should be required to repay with your belongings or of something of equal value. What if you don't have something of equal value, which is often the case? That's all. That's all I'm asking is, okay, so according to this, how do we deal with somebody who doesn't have the equal value? They don't have that value to them. I mean, they have their life, but unless you're saying death penalty for theft, I don't know what you're saying.
Need of our help, that they don't know any better, and that they need to be cured of some social disease. But another approach to just punishment is deterrence.
Deterrence. That's also a good part of it. Zippy says, on white collar crime, get them breaking rocks, picking up those cans. Fucking goddamn YouTube censorship. Yeah.
Cured of some social.
But I do agree.
Disease. But another approach to just punishment is deterrence.
Hey, shout out to the God Daddy himself. Welcome, Cody Brooks, to the party. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Said, isn't everything a social disease these days? They sure try to make it seem that way. Welcome to the party. Always good to see you, sir. Happy Philosophy Friday to you.
Cured of some social disease. But another approach to just punishment is deterrence. For eons, people have assumed that punishment prevents a wrongdoer from committing further crimes, while also discouraging others from breaking the rules. So rather than making a wrongdoer suffer for what they've done, supporters of deterrence see punishment as being for the good of society as a whole. Sometimes we punish people to send a message to other people.
Yeah, I think that is a beneficial thing of deterrence. I think that is a positive factor when it comes to justice, and especially in when we're bringing it into the legal system. And said, yeah, they should. So if they don't, then there will be other options like community service or something. They should what? There'll be other options like community service or something that contributes back to the community or person they stole from. It shouldn't be the default. I don't know what you're saying. I have no idea what you're saying.
Good of society as a whole.
Again, I'm just asking. We have somebody who stole something. They don't have equal value. You said they need to give the equal value, but they don't have that value unless we're talking about their life. So what do we do? That's what I'm asking. Just take this single example. Let's call him Aladdin. What do we do with Aladdin?
Sometimes we punish people to send a message to other people. One more approach to just punishment is the concept of restorative justice. Here, you must right your wrongs. The focus is on making amends rather than making the wrongdoer suffer. So if you make a mess, you have to clean it up. And if you hurt someone, you need to take steps to try and make it right. This is the logic.
Maybe, but I don't understand. Like, somebody else explain to me what is it that we do with Aladdin? What's in here? Since I'm so dumb, everybody else obviously gets it, and I'm just the dumb one, right? So if you're saying community service, then how is that different than how is that any different than what we're already talking about? So because this sounds like, yes, they should pay with their life. That's the last thing I said. That unless you're saying they should pay with their life, you said, yeah, they should. And then you're talking about community service. And I'm dense because I didn't understand it. And nobody else did either. So let's take it down a notch. I'm trying to read the text as I'm listening, as I'm reading everybody else. Just because I don't get it immediately doesn't mean I'm stupid. Maybe I just need you to explain it more simply. That's why I asked, what do we do with Aladdin? If you said, with Aladdin, we do this, and I still didn't understand that you were answering the question, then yeah, that'd be pretty fucking dense. So yeah, they should. So if they don't, when I don't know what you're referring to, does not make me dense.
Behind assigning community service to offenders. The hope here is that the right approach to wrongdoing will lead to healing and growth, both for the wrongdoer and for the wronged. It's about restoration and forgiveness, basically the polar opposite of the retributive approach. So,
see, it says, pragmatically speaking, we can't prevent all or even most crime. Agreed. We can only create effective deterrence when doable and restrict the freedom of multiple offenders if necessary. I don't even think that, when you say multiple offenders, do you mean multiple time offenders or a multiplicity of those who have offended? Because I think I don't necessarily think that you need to be a repeat offender. Yeah, I don't. Okay. I don't necessarily think you need to be a repeat offender to have some type of punishment for wrongdoing. We definitely have an understanding as a society what the rules are and aren't. I mean, there may be instances where it's like, oh, I didn't know that was illegal. But generally, if you're breaking the law, you're breaking the law.
Restoration and forgiveness, basically the polar opposite of the retributive approach. So take this advice. Give some thought to your own views on these topics, because what you see as the right answer should shape the way you vote, how you spend your money, and the way you punish your kids. You might discover that upon reflection, you should change the way you're doing some things. Like I said, everyone talks about justice, but before you can, you really have to decide what it means. Today,
what does it mean? What does it mean? Okay, so Am said, I just said that it shouldn't be the default. So the giving equal things shouldn't be the equality, or community service shouldn't be the default. I didn't say that. I said nothing about death. No, I said the death part. So that's why when you said, yes, I agree, or yes, they should, when I said, unless you're talking about the death penalty, and then you said, yeah, they should, why would I think that you're saying anything other than referring to what I just said? So fine. So you're saying, so let's go. So yes, they should pay back in equal balance. If they don't, or if so, if they can't, is I guess what you're saying. If they can't, then there will be other options like community service or something. Yeah, agreed. Again, like I was just asking for clarification. I know I'm a fucking genius, but sometimes I'm just a person, guys. Just because I don't get something, don't get mad at me. Trying to communicate. That's what this whole thing is about. Us communicating better. Stephen Colbert said, even a fine is a restriction of freedom, but you just scale that up based on severity of crime and recidivism. Well, yeah, I think that it's okay to restrict freedoms when you have shown that you are willing to abuse those freedoms. There's certain freedoms that are inherent to personhood. So no matter what you do, it's not just to restrict your freedom of speech or religion or any of these things. But that doesn't mean that other types of freedoms should not be restricted if you did something wrong. Right? Cody said, seeing someone as a first-time offense heavily relies on a jury or judge thinking it'll be your last offense. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, what would the question be of how many first-time offenders, how many people who commit crimes commit a second crime? Like, how would you ask that question? Because the reason I'm asking is like, if we know that people who are likely to commit a crime the first time are a lot more likely to commit a crime again, then what reason do we have to wait until they do the second crime before we treat them as a, you know what I mean? I do think that there should be higher punishments for the more times you do something, but I don't think, first time offense, you definitely, there should be some punishment, some retribution, some rehabilitation, something. All right, moving on to discrimination. Yeah, but so like what okay. So what would be the question? What am I asking? So how many people who have committed a crime and end up committing another crime? I have a feeling that's not going to give us. Of course. Okay. The likelihood of a person reoffending after committing crime is typically measured by recidivism rates. These can be, but recidivism usually refers to people getting caught, right? I don't know if that's necessarily they are a repeat offender, but I'm saying, how do we measure how many of first time offenders end up being repeat offenders? This is all about so let's see. I'm not asking about arrest rates. I'm specifically asking about the commission of a crime, whether or not it leads to an arrest. I was getting that. Cody said, I was arrested for burglary 2 and theft 2. Yowza. Managed to get off felony charges, and record was deleted by paying the families back plus interest. Well, there you go. I guess Am's got it right then. Clearly learned your lesson. Glad that you got out of that. Yikes. Steven said, retribution is a bad word when it comes to justice. Kind of, yeah. But I I'm not. What's the if you're saying this in the tone that like, oh, they don't want a retribution, then I agree with you. But I don't. If you're saying this straight faced, where you're saying that retribution is a bad word when it comes to justice, I don't necessarily agree. So what does Am got for us here? Recidivism rates by state. Why is this? No, okay. Can you guys see this? Where am I? Where do we go? So, imprisonment tendency to be convicted for repeat or reoffend a crime after already receiving punishment or serving their sentence. Yeah, so that's again going back to sentencing and arrests and stuff. So, U.S. has some of the highest rates in the world. 40% of criminals return. And again, I'm talking about return, and that obviously there's going to be a strong correlation here. But sometimes you do a crime, you get caught, and then you learn how to not get caught. ChatGPT is foul. Grok is much better. Is it? I mean, well, this is the free version, so I mean, good one. Yeah, this is all going to be based on arrest rates. So that's it's just, this is not going to be a direct answer to the question of how many people who commit a crime, because again, not everybody who commits a crime gets caught. Right. That's the issue. Because not everybody who gets caught, or excuse me, not everybody who does a crime gets caught. Not everybody who does a crime and gets caught does a crime again. Some of the people who do a crime again will get caught for the first time. Some of those people will have gotten caught already, and so like that's what I'm trying to determine. How many people are we? Because it was again, I apologize, I forget who it was. Somebody brought up the repeat offenders, and my thing was that why are we waiting for them to repeat the offense? Once you offend, then you have done something to deserve some type of criminal justice. LLM. I don't LLM. Who's LLM? LLM is LLM. Oh, what is an LLM? LLMs are great at sounding like they know what they're talking about. Not so great at fact checking or avoiding hallucinations. LLMs. I have never heard that before. But all right, discrimination, guys. You know where this is going, but it's going to be interesting because remember, this is 7 years old. This is 7 years old.
We're living in a world of Black Lives Matter versus All Lives Matter. A world where presidential elections hinge on people's views regarding the building of walls. And we should be open.
Okay. So they're great at sounding like they know what we're talking about, not so great at fact checking or avoiding hallucinations. Fair enough. Yeah. I think, these large language models or LLMs, such as ChatGPT, they're definitely not perfect, but like that's going to, if I start there, knowing that it went right to recidivism rates, that at least lets me know that that's the best type of information regarding the question or the prompt that they have. So I'm not going to now spend an hour Googling to find out that, oh, everybody just goes by recidivism. I can just see it much more quickly. And I heard about the new version where you can actually see the thought process. It's wild. It's wild.
Presidential elections hinge on people's views regarding the building of walls. And we should be open about the fact that issues like these, ones that involve our beliefs about sameness, equality, and difference, are sensitive and can easily arouse our emotions. One topic that always comes up in these conversations is discrimination. It's one of those loaded words packed with negativity. Most people would probably tell you that discrimination is bad, but they probably do it whether they realize it or not. So, are they allowed to, morally speaking? And do you do it? How can you tell if you do?
Do you discriminate? I definitely discriminate. Based on what, though? Based on what?
Are they allowed to, morally speaking? And do you do it? How can you tell if you do? Are there times when it's okay to discriminate, maybe even necessary? When you answer questions like these, it can be hard to keep emotions from taking over. So it's worth taking some time here when our emotions are at an even keel and reason is in the driver's seat, right where Plato said it belongs, to think carefully about discrimination and what it really means.
DFTBA.
Morality demands that individuals' acts or states of affairs that are the same should be treated the same. But we don't always do that. Discrimination is the favoring of one group or member of a group over another group or other member of it, in the absence of any morally relevant differences.
I mean, does anybody not know what discrimination is in 2024? I think we really gone hard down that road.
Morally relevant difference.
Somebody tell Sailor that I'm about to bring up his favorite Jane Elliott thing that he loves to talk about.
Are things that would actually justify unequal treatment. Like if you work for an airline and you're hiring a pilot, you can favor a person with sight over a blind person.
But not a black person over a white person!
Because when the job is flying a plane, sight matters. You're not discriminating against a blind person because they're blind, but because they are literally unable to do the job. And someone who looks like me would be a fairly awful candidate to go undercover with, like, the Haitian mafia, which means skin color can matter, although very rarely. So there are cases where we can see clear justifications for favoring members of one group over another, and there are plenty of equally obvious cases where favoritism seems clearly unjustified. But what about the not so clear-cut cases?
Let's get into those.
What if there really are reasons you might want to discriminate, but those reasons are relevant in one instance and not another? So let's look at some tough cases. Contemporary American philosopher Peter Singer offers the example of a restaurant owner who doesn't want to hire an African American because his clientele is racist.
No, I'm not racist, but the people who come to my establishment are racist, so if I hire a black man, then that's going to affect me negatively. Not the worst situation. Let's say not the worst example. I like where this is going.
Owner who doesn't want to hire an African American because his clientele is racist. He's afraid that many of his customers will stop coming to his restaurant rather than be served by an African American. So the restaurant owner himself doesn't hold racist beliefs, but he worries the decision to be colorblind in hiring will harm his livelihood. It might make us uncomfortable to admit, but in certain parts of the country, this restaurant owner's concerns are not at all unfounded. Or consider a woman who refuses to be treated by a highly qualified gynecologist simply because he's male. Now, what about a woman who refuses to be treated by a qualified gynecologist because he's Asian American?
Ooh, so are the what's the question that I want? Are those is one of those okay? Is one of those a legitimate form of discrimination, or both, or neither?
A woman who refuses to be treated by a highly qualified gynecologist simply because he's male. Now, what about a woman who refuses to be treated by a qualified gynecologist because he's Asian American? Or say there's an all-male company that hires a qualified woman over an equally qualified man in the interest of fostering diversity in the workplace. Or a bakery that refuses to make a Nazi-themed cake for a customer who's a white supremacist.
So all these kinds of things, and Anne's like, I am not seeing a male gyno, and so that seems to be a legitimate form of discrimination. But why? Why is that a legitimate form? Yeah, right, sexist Amber. Ooh. But then, and again, I agree with the notion that you should be able to say, no, I don't want a male, doing that. And then, the race of the person obviously doesn't come into it, or shouldn't come into it.
Bakery that refuses to make a Nazi-themed cake for a customer who's a white supremacist. Some of these cases you probably agree with, some of them you probably don't. Your gut intuition might be to applaud the bakery for refusing to make a Nazi cake. But think about their
freedom of speech
reasons for turning down that job. Probably a deep personal conviction that Nazi ideology is appalling, so they don't want to contribute to its endorsement and celebration. But what if instead of a Nazi cake, it was a wedding cake for a same-sex couple? And what if there was a bunch of bakeries in that town, and the gay couple purposely went to this bakery because they knew that they would cause an issue. And what about that? Because that's what he's talking about, That's what he's talking about.
Steven said, how should a man feel about having a female do his colon exam? That is up to you. That is up to you. I'm 34, so I have yet to do that. But 35 this year. Cody Brooks said, the reason you don't want a male gyno is the same reason you don't want a female urologist, making the good points. And so again, oh my goodness, I did not expect that. They have said their fingers are bigger. Sorry, when I was pregnant, that shit hurt. Well, I mean, hey, very, very valid, I guess. But again, the question is not, is it okay for these things to be, or it's not whether or not it's okay for you to be discriminatory in these situations, but why is it okay in these situations and not in a situation like the Asian doctor?
If the owners of the bakery have a deep personal conviction that same-sex marriage is appalling and they don't want to contribute to its endorsement and celebration. Do you support their refusal too? Now, you might hold the view that we should...
That's probably, I mean, again, I have not had the experience, so I don't know how much that's going to matter, but yeah, sounds smart.
To its endorsement and celebration. Do you support their refusal too? Now, you might hold the view that we should all have the freedom to do whatever we want. Business owners can discriminate because of their personal convictions or to maximize profits or just because they're straight up racist.
Yup. That's America, Jack. That's America, Jack. Guys, really quick, if you could do me a huge favor, if you've not already, hit that like button. It is free, it is easy, it helps so much. Also, sharing the video. It doesn't matter if nobody clicks on the link that you share. Just telling YouTube, hey, I want other people to see this does a lot. And of course, if you never want to miss an Indian Jesus live party, make sure you hit that subscribe, ring the bell. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Discriminate because of their personal convictions or to maximize profits or just because they're straight up racist. The problem with this view is that it gives a great deal of freedom to only some people, namely those in power, those who own the businesses and control the money.
I'm going to disagree on its face, but okay, let's hear the argument. Let's hear the argument. That because we're, well, first, does anybody disagree with the fact that, you know, if you're a...
profits want.
If you're a business owner, you should be able to be a racist if you want. Like, not morally saying it's good or bad, but legally.
Business owners can discriminate because of their personal convictions or to maximize profits or just because they're straight up racist.
So does anybody disagree with that? Put it one in the chat if you disagree with the fact that a business owner should be able to be essentially a bad person. There's no law against that. I think we all agree. So then if that's the case, then...
The problem with this view is that it gives a great deal of freedom to only some people, namely those in power, those who own the businesses and control the money.
And so maybe so, but then I think that begs the question that maybe that power is granted by virtue of owning the business and controlling the money. It's not that you give the power to the people who already have power and own business. It's by owning a business and having the money that gives you that power. So I don't see that as a problem. I see that as justice. And said, so it's not discriminatory. It's not discriminatory, but preference. I don't care what race he is. I don't want a he. And then possibly. Yeah, I think. Well, here again. But that is discrimination. But as we're seeing, it's okay to discriminate in certain situations. If I say, yeah, I'm willing to talk to any Christian about religion and whatever, I'm allowed to discriminate against somebody who's going to start cursing at me for no reason and just arguing in bad faith. It's a preference that I deal with somebody in good faith. But that doesn't mean it's not discrimination to say, no, I'm not going to allow you onto my platform, but I'll allow somebody else who's going to talk about religion on my platform. So that absolutely is discrimination due to your preference, and it's absolutely valid. Unwanted Foe said, 1, the 14th Amendment doesn't allow discrimination by race and sex. True. But so where that right ends. So this is in this is by the government. So the government can't discriminate by race and sex. You, as a business owner, absolutely can. Even ladies' night. Ladies' night is discrimination. But that's okay, because you're allowed to do that. Stephen said being discriminating versus being discriminatory. I still think that's a distinction without a difference, because you are discriminating or you're being discriminatory. That means the same thing. That's just a different uses of different forms of the word. But again, if you're saying I am a woman who does not want any men to act as my gynecologist, you are discriminating against men. But that is okay for you to do that. Just like, yeah. And Unwanted Foe said bars and clubs discriminate all the time, may pay an entry fee, and women usually don't. Even let's take it away from the men and women shit. A bartender can discriminate against who they're willing to serve. If I, as the bartender, think that you've drank too much, then I can discriminate against you and say, no, you are too drunk to get another drink. These are all forms of discrimination. But that doesn't mean it's bad. Simply using the terms is often just cover. Well, that gets into the semantic obfuscation, where we hone on discrimination as being social, racial discrimination and nothing else. But that is simply using such terms is often just cover. However, those two terms have different inferences. Yeah, one's a noun and one's a verb, but the action that they refer to is the same. It's discriminating. Being discriminatory means you are discriminating. That's what that means.
And the more freedom they have to act as they choose, the less freedom the people they're discriminating against will have.
And again, that's okay. It's okay for you to have more freedom to discriminate against men, where men don't have the right to discriminate against you being up in their junk. That's okay. It's not perfectly equitable, but whoever wants that?
Freedom they have to act as they choose, the less freedom the people they're discriminating against will have. So if we actually want a country that's free for all of its citizens, the freedom to act against some of our citizens is going to have to be held in check. And that means reining in the freedom to discriminate. Now,
sure. Again, agreed. As Unwanted Foe brought up, that we definitely need to limit what the government can do in terms of discrimination. But that right ends when you have the freedom of speech, the freedom of association. Again, we might say that we don't like people who use that right to be racist or sexist or any of those things. But again, morality and legality are different things.
Citizens is going to have to be held in check. And that means reining in the freedom to discriminate. Now, there's obviously a lot of disagreement about when discrimination is okay and when it's not. Contemporary American philosopher Judith Jarvis Thomson offers this rule of thumb: discrimination that favors a historically underprivileged class is more likely to be acceptable than discrimination that favors a historically privileged class.
Don't we know it? Don't we know it?
Reasoning, she says, is that those who have historically been denied privilege could use the advantage.
Well, you see the seeds of an Ibram X. Kendi right here.
So if a woman is getting hired over a man, well, that's not a big deal, considering that men have been hired over women so many times in the past.
Ooh, wow, I guess you did not expect that to be completely reversed in the 7 years since this came out.
Over a man, well, that's not a big deal, considering that men have been hired over women so many times in the past. As long as a historically underprivileged group continues to suffer from the disadvantages of the past, even if those disadvantages are not currently being imposed on them, Jarvis Thomson says a little special treatment is okay. Not everyone agrees with this view, however, like contemporary American philosopher Robert Nozick, who we talked about last time. After all, what if I happen to be a member of a historically privileged class? That's not my fault, so why should I have to be passed over for jobs because of my gender and my pale skin?
Yeah, almost like DEI is bad.
Isn't that also unjustified discrimination? One response to Nozick is to argue that justice isn't always the same as being fair.
Justice. I need to throw this to you guys. Justice isn't always is the same as being fair. Agree or disagree? Or we'll do true or false. I don't know. Well, I guess what would be an example of something that is just, that is unfair? You would just need one example for this to be true, but I can't think of it.
Discrimination? One response to Nozick is to argue that justice isn't always the same as being fair. If I'm a white guy passed over for a job that I'm qualified for, that sucks and it's unfair, but the reason it feels unfair to me now is because I've reaped the spoils of white male privilege for so long.
So yeah, now that's still not cool to pass over a white guy for a job just because in the past, white people have been treated differently. Because that white guy is still the same person that never was the person from the past. So, no.
When you're already so far ahead, it can feel really bad to be held back and asked to wait for others to catch up.
Yeah. Agreed.
But if we're actually aiming at equality, that's
equality or equity? Because what you're talking about is not equality. What you're talking about is equity.
exactly what people at the front are going to have to do. Well, let's go back to the gynecologist cases. Many people's intuition is that women should be able to choose against male gynecologists because being examined by a man in such an intimate way might make a woman feel uncomfortable. Yet, many people might report the same level of discomfort being examined by someone of another race. These cases tug at the feelings we have about our personal beliefs and what happens when those private things butt up against the public sphere. You might think that
Right, so that is, hey, shout out to King Nirvana. Welcome to the party. We're talking about justice, and this episode is discrimination. So of course we are getting into the even 7 years ago, you could see the seeds of DEI, infiltrating just normal life. This is not a political thing. But we're talking about white privilege, and we're talking about, those ahead have to wait for everybody else. No child left behind, right? Because that worked out so well. You might think that this is a good idea, but it's not. But I want to go back to the discussion of, now that, we're all on the same page that, yes, of course, it is reasonable for a woman to discriminate against a man being her gynecologist. Why? Why is it okay for that discrimination and racial discrimination not okay? I'm not saying that they are, they're not. I'm saying that the doing philosophy is drilling down and understanding what, not just that I feel that it's okay to discriminate against men in that situation, but not discriminate against races in that situation. Philosophy is going further and saying, why? Why would it be okay to be uncomfortable with a male and that being enough to say, no, I'm discriminating against you? But some people legitimately have that discomfort with other races because they're racist. And even though we don't like racism, it's not illegal. So why? What's the difference? What's the difference? What is the material difference? Again, I'm not saying there is no difference. I'm asking you guys and us together to be able to articulate what is that difference.
And what happens when those private things butt up against the public sphere. You might think that every individual should be free to choose and choose against doctors for whatever personal reasons she might have.
That's pretty, again, should you not be allowed to say, I don't want an Asian doctor, or I don't want an Indian doctor, or I don't want a woman doctor? Should that be illegal?
But we should also consider what these discriminatory mindsets are really based on. The reason customers might not want an African American to bring food to their table is the same reason that a patient might not want to be examined by an Asian American doctor: fear of the unknown. But we know intellectually that these fears are unfounded.
Sure, they may be unfounded, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. So if you genuinely are a racist person and you genuinely, like Robin DiAngelo, who's like, oh, when I see a black person in the supermarket, I have to feel like I have to act all this way. Yeah, that you're racist. But she genuinely feels that. So when it comes to the morality of what we're talking about, if she genuinely feels differently around black people, why is it okay for the average woman to discriminate against a man being her gynecologist, and it's not okay for Robin DiAngelo to discriminate against the way that she treats white and black people? Again, not saying it is. I'm asking you guys why. What is the explanation? I think we all agree, but why? Why do we think that?
Fear of the unknown. But we know intellectually that these fears are unfounded. Spend some time around people who are different from you in a way that makes you feel uncomfortable, and you realize that despite those differences, there are actually a lot more similarities than there are differences. So
Yeah, you hang out with a bunch of white gang members and you realize that, even though they're committing crimes all the time, that, you got a lot more in common. Do you know? This is where this argument falls apart. It falls apart.
So the restaurant owner from case number 1 could allow his patrons to decide who they'll be served by and not give the African-American applicant the job. Or he can say, this is my new employee, so if you want to eat here, you're gonna have to get over yourself and your racism.
And everybody stand. Oh, come on. Come on. Really? There. And everybody stand and cheered. Everybody stand and cheered. You get over yourself and your racism.
This is my new employee, so if you want to eat here, you're gonna have to get over yourself and your racism.
The problem is that this is a politically this is a political response to a philosophical question. Like, you making the video here agree that like as we do, that the racism is a bad thing, but you're baking in that the restaurant owner has to also think racism is bad. What if they legitimately like, well, I'm not racist, but I want to make money? That doesn't address the moral dilemma.
And this might cost him some business, but over time his
But oh well, what is business except the entire reason that this particular person exists?
you're gonna have to get over yourself and your racism. And this might cost him some business, but over time his customers will get over themselves and probably be a little more accepting of other races as well.
Maybe. How do you know that? What area are we talking about? We've already established that the clientele are racist. So what makes you think that in a racist area, because we can assume that if people are just going to the restaurant, proximity is going to be the most likely thing. What makes you think that the people who are close enough to the restaurant care enough that you know that they're racist, and then you'll be able to find other people who live further away who know about the fact that you hired a black person despite the fact that the people don't go there? Like, what? This is a fantasy, dude. This is not how it would play out. People would just stop going there. Yeah, exactly. They just stop going there, and he ends up closing. That is how this works out. Come on, man. It's so sad. Like, why does everybody who gets it in some level have to drop the ball so hard in other areas? I mean, I'm sure I definitely do it too, but like, why? Why? Wonderful said, would racists really be upset about a black person serving them? I mean, I guess it depends on how racist they are. Probably not, but let's say that they do. Let's say that they do. Why is it the responsibility of the restaurant owner to literally pay to take money out of his pocket to make sure that this one waiter has a job? Why is it his responsibility? It's not.
His customers will get over themselves and
according to you,
probably be a little more accepting of other races.
Yeah, they're just automatically going to stop being racist because you put a black guy in the restaurant. I mean, this is teetering on condescending
as well, which is exactly what happened by and large when racial discrimination in hiring became illegal. It might seem
Did it though? Or did this happen all throughout society at the same time and not one particular instance? Come on. Oof. This is the most I've disagreed with this entire series so far. We are 41 videos in, and this is the most disagreement I've had.
What happened, by and large, when racial discrimination in hiring became illegal. It might seem unfair that a small business owner should have to take on that fight, though. Why is it
Yeah, it is unfair.
his job to educate his racist clientele? Likewise, when it comes to discriminating against customers or job applicants, is there a difference between a business being able to choose who they do or don't hire and who they do and don't serve? How do we balance this right, if it is one, against a person's right to be employed and served? One response
I would say that you don't have a right to be employed. You don't have a right to be employed. If you can't do shit, why would you be employed? You can see how the liberal economic order makes this the default.
this right, if it is one, against a person's right to be employed and served. One response is to say that people have a negative right to employment and to service. That is, people can't be stopped from obtaining those things.
Oh, but they can.
But that does not
And they should in many cases.
entail a corresponding right to this job or to be served at this business.
And okay, fine. That's a good cope, I guess. If you're saying you have the right to employment, you have the right to other people's things, but just not this particular thing. Like, I mean, okay, I think that's kind of, saying the same thing with extra steps, but sure.
Does not entail a corresponding right to this job or to be served at this business. Like, we don't all have a right to any particular job, and similarly, businesses don't have to serve everyone. You don't have a right to tickets to a sold-out concert, and if there's still a line at the ice cream stand when closing time rolls around, the business has a right to turn customers away. So it's
Yeah, and exactly as I wanted to vote, saying it became illegal, but now employers just use generic reasons to turn people down instead. Makes it very difficult to prove when it's actually discrimination. That's a big factor. That you can get rid of the discriminatory practices, but if the mentality behind it is the same, people are always going to find a way. People are always going to find a way to do what it is they want to do and not do what they don't want to do. So this is all running around, and you're ending up with a restaurant that has a restaurant that's closed down, a bunch of people who are still just as racist as they've ever been, and now the guy definitely doesn't have a job because there's no restaurant to work at. And said, yeah, and even proving discrimination as an active employee is extremely difficult. Because most of the time, it's just not. It's not discrimination. But they've widened the umbrella to try to make things fair and make things equitable. That now when we have situations that are legitimate discrimination, where it's like, oh, very clear that, like, I can't think of, you know what I mean? Then there's so many other bullshit discrimination cases. Then how is that one supposed to rise to the top? These things have consequences.
seems like it matters why you're being denied the job or service. Is there a morally relevant reason for the discrimination?
Yeah, again, and maybe so. So again, going back to the gynecologist, if there's a morally relevant reason to discriminate against men, and the basis is that you're uncomfortable and you should be able to feel comfortable, why then does the racist not have the right to feel comfortable in the same way? And said you have to prove that nobody else was treated similarly. Only you. Yeah. In the workplace, that shit is. And I'm not. And like when I say most of the time, I don't want to make it seem like this doesn't occur. What I'm trying to say is when it does occur, which it absolutely does, it gets lost in the shuffle because so many people have worked towards widening the window of what discrimination is, that it's now very hard to prove because of the parameters that they use.
Back through the cases. After reflecting on what we've talked about today, has your response to any of those cases changed? And if so, why? It's an issue that deserves your thought. And if you share those thoughts in the comments, please do so as kindly and thoughtfully as possible.
So let's actually do that. We don't usually go to the I was so excited. I was so excited for a second. I was like, oh, maybe we'll get some really interesting stuff here. Nope. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to the final chapter in Justice. Non-human animals. Non-human animals. And do we? Let's go to this poll. Justice isn't always the same. As being fair. I'm glad that I forgot the word fair. But so you guys are saying, yeah, 83% of you that said that justice isn't the same thing as being fair. So who can give me a situation that is just yet unfair, or unjust but fair? If justice isn't always the same thing as being fair, then it means there's at least one situation where we have justice but unfairness, or injustice with fairness. And I'm going to bet nobody can give me an example of that. So if anybody wants to explain why they said true, I'd be very interested to hear that. Yeah, right. Even especially on something like this, where you're specifically asking for comments, like what? Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing? Soil said, someone say reparations, maybe. Huh? To what? Reparations. What? Again, guys, if you could try to reference what you're talking about. There's a lot going on. You guys are all at different spots in the streams. I don't exactly know what we're talking about, but non-human animals.
Remember Cecil the lion? A lot of people.
Remember Cecil the lion? Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, I need your guys. So, so you're saying so reparations is an example of something that's fair but unjust, or unjust but fair? I would say I would disagree though. Do you think that's fair? I don't think it's fair. Cecil the lion. When were you mad at the shooter of Cecil the lion? Let's see. Could be either or. Well, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a specific thing. That's why I don't think that it's a good statement to say justice isn't always the same thing as being fair, because now we're just talking about whether you think, then it becomes an opinion thing. When you're yeah, I agree. I don't think it's just or fair. And so I think the people who would just say that it's not. But again, even the people who, so you're saying some would say reparations. Why would they? Would they say that it's not just, or would they say that it's not fair? Because I think the people who are for reparations would say that it's just and fair. And I think we agree that it is not just or fair. So it seems like when it comes to reparations, you either think it's just and fair, or you don't think it's either of them. So we're looking for a situation where it is one but not the other to the individual. Yeah, I don't even. When was Cecil? Cecil the lion. That was 2015. 2015. God damn. 2015. Good call. Shout out to Harambe. That might have been just to save the kid from potential death, but definitely not fair for Harambe. I think that's it. Huh. Was it just? I think it was just. I think you hit the nail on the head. There you go. We found it. Shout out to Soil to Soul. I take it back. Justice and fairness are not always the same thing. Well done. See, that's what we're trying to do here. Get it? Gotta pull it out of you. Or you pull it out of me.
Remember Cecil the Lion? A lot of people were shocked, even outraged, when they heard about his death at the hands of an American hunter in 2015. The response to the lion's death was so strong that the guy who shot Cecil basically went into hiding until he issued an apology. But isn't that a little bit strange? We react with horror when we hear about a majestic lion being shot, or sacks of kittens being tossed into rivers, or owners training their dogs to fight each other for sport. But what is the difference between killing Cecil and killing a deer or a...
He's so cute. Excuse me. Ham said, Apple River. The man was found guilty of murder, so in comparison to other murder sentences, fair. But injustice because the kids were harassing and attacking him first, so this was self-defense. What is Apple River? Is that where this is that the Harambe thing, or is this a different thing? I don't know what Apple River is. Oh. Apple River. So this is where Harambe was? Okay, cool. Cool.
dogs to fight each other for sport. But what is the difference?
Gotcha. That's a trial name. So he was found guilty. So this is the trial for Cecil. Okay. So the man was found guilty of murder. So in comparison to other murder sentences, fair, but injustice because the kids are harassing him. Oh, no. So, okay, the Apple River's the case for Harambe. So the man was found guilty of murder. So in comparison to other murder sentences, fair, but injustice because the kids were harassing and attacking him first. So it was self-defense. Yeah, agreed.
Kittens being tossed into rivers or owners training their dogs to fight each other for sport. But what is the difference between killing Cecil and killing a deer or a duck or a cow or a chicken?
So I'll tell you guys that 100%. Oh, well, only one of you has voted. Well, I was gonna talk about my personal experience with Cecil the lion, but hit the poll. Let me know what you think, and then we'll talk about it. Am said he didn't intend to kill the kid, but one died. Unfortunately. Oh, I was like, what the? Guys, we are past the 2-hour mark. If you'd like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it.
How do we reconcile the strong feelings many of us have about certain animals, mainly the cute ones like kittens and puppies, with the way we actually use animals in our own lives?
Come on.
Most of us think nothing of using non-human animals for their meat, milk, or skins, and not only do we use animals in these ways, but using them as we do almost always harms them. A common method for testing cosmetics, for example, involves restraining rabbits and putting the product into their eyes, leaving it for a set amount of time, and then washing it out and checking for ill effects. Rabbits are used for this because they don't have tear ducts, so they aren't able to flush the product out of their eyes the way our eyes would.
Smart. I guess that's smart. I'm watching photos. Said Trayvon Martin death. So Trayvon Martin was the Mexican dude. George, or was that which one was this? Or was that the kid playing? I don't know. I can't fucking keep this shit straight. Yeah, this was George. George's face, right? Okay, yeah. So this is the George Zimmerman one. Fair. His death, just or fair? So let's recap the facts here. But really quick, a shout out to Soil to Soul for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Mark, come here. Come on. Come here, Marty. Come. Yeah. It's for you. There you go. Thank you so very, very much appreciated. And look at that face. He's so happy. Oh, thank you so much. All right, let's see what this is about. So, we're talking February 2012 in Florida. George Zimmerman fatally shot Trayvon Martin, 17-year-old. Visiting his father, 28-year-old multiracial man who identifies as Hispanic. It was widely reported that Zimmerman charged with second-degree murder for Martin's death, but acquitted by the jury after claiming self-defense, although Martin had no weapon except hands and fists. So okay, so as I'm remembering, he saw Trayvon. He saw Trayvon, and he was kind of like following him around, and he was trying to act like like a citizen cop type deal. You know, I was just no, not fair or just. It's just there's too many. Like he didn't do anything. Like he didn't do anything. Definitely not just or fair.
For this because they don't have tear ducts, so they aren't able to flush the product out of their eyes the way our eyes would. It may not surprise you to hear that this can be extremely painful and often blinds the rabbits, which are then euthanized. On factory farms, chickens are housed in tiny cages with each bird occupying a space the size of a piece of standard printer paper. Their beaks are often cut down to keep them from pecking each other, and when they're no longer laying enough eggs, they're killed. These are just a couple examples of the conditions animals experience at our expense, and they're not unusual.
They're definitely not. And there was when I was going through my, reevaluating, what my values were after I was leaving religion, this animal rights thing came up. And so I really looked into, my brother's been a vegetarian since he was 16. I think he's 41, 42. So he's hardcore with it. And I was thinking about is that what I should be doing? Is it moral for me to be eating meat? And I eventually decided that yes, it is moral to eat meat. And there are, it's not the eating of the meat or the killing of the animal, but rather the method. And I'm not in a position to buy organic grass-fed whatever, and I'm not in a position to become a hunter. And so the two options were either eventually become a hunter or become a vegetarian. And I'm working on it. It takes time, but I eventually will become a fully self-sufficient meat-eating man, in the sense that any meat that I eat, except for special occasions stuff, I will have killed myself. I don't know anything about anything yet, but that's the goal.
They're just a couple examples of the conditions animals experience at our expense, and they're not unusual. We'd never dream of using another human being in these ways, but we think nothing of doing it to non-human animals. So how do we let ourselves do that? Contemporary Australian philosopher Peter Singer uses the word speciesism to describe giving preference to our own species over another.
Yeah, so this is a big thing, like especially in the atheist community specifically. Animal rights became a very big thing in speciesism, or what's the other word? I forget what they use, but like human supremacist or something along those lines. That it's not okay to say that, well, humans are different, and we just are. So the soul said we all just have to do what we can within our means. Yeah. So at that time, I was looking into lab-grown meat, because I was like, okay, then it's actual organic meat from an animal, but there's no killing involved. And maybe had we not gone through COVID, then I might have trusted that. But now, no. I mean, maybe, but we don't have to see how it's rolled out. I was all about it in 2015, but now we gotta. I'm not naming 2015, more like 2010. But either way, definitely keeping a much closer eye on it before I put that in my body.
In the absence of morally relevant differences. Singer reminds us that there was a time when most Americans thought it was totally normal and right for members of one group to literally own members of another group based on a morally irrelevant difference, skin color.
It's almost like maybe that came from the Bible.
And today, the members of the moral
oh, God damn it!
That intelligence is a good way for deciding how you get treated. Dystopian novels like Brave New World bring out the visceral distaste we have for that kind of...
Are you past this already?
Today, the members of the oppressing group look back on a morally irrelevant subject. Singer reminds us that there was a time when most Americans thought it was totally normal and right for members of one group to literally own members of another group based on a morally irrelevant difference, skin color. And today, the members of the oppressing group look back on the reasoning of their ancestors with horror and shame. Well, Singer
Do they?
predicts that there will be a time when our descendants look back on us and our treatment of non-human animals with the same reaction.
Will they?
In a nutshell, Singer says, if it's not okay to do it to a human, it's not okay to do it to an animal either. Now, you might
What if I'm okay with murder?
think you agree with him, because who doesn't love bunnies and kittens? But do you really agree with him? If you agree that we should treat like cases alike, and that a difference in treatment requires a morally relevant difference, then you have to identify the differences that justify treating non-human animals in ways that we would never subject humans to.
And that's fair. So if we're going to say that, yes, it is reasonable to treat humans by a different standard than we treat any other animal, then we have to have a reason. And the reason is we will die. We will die. Not we individually. Humanity will die. If we don't use the means that will kill other animals, we will die. The entire world cannot be vegetarian. That is not like, no. Once Bo said Singer sounds like he's justifying zoophiles. Pretty much. And so Alex O'Connor, the atheist guy that I met at Distant Dialogues, and still hasn't hit me back, but it's on the docket. But he went through a period where he was like, I morally I have to be, I can't be speciesist, and he stopped. He went, full vegan, all this stuff, and he like got sick, and I don't remember the details. I kind of stopped watching a lot of that content, but he gave it up after a little while, and I was like, not for me. And exactly what Soil said. You just got to work with what you got. And said they were sold to whites by their own people.
Bingo.
But they don't. You're not supposed to remember that. You're not supposed to put that together. What do you? There was already no, Amber. What happened is that the evil white supremacist went over to Africa, and the Ooga Booga people didn't know any better, so they just waved a shiny thing, and all the black people, because according to them they were so dumb, ooh, and then they just caught him in a net and put him on a ship. That's what happened. Didn't you take 4th grade history? This is basic American history. Oh, they lied. Oh, they lied, didn't they? That was clearly they were sold by other slave masters. Sorry. I had to go on a tangent. So the Soul said, random animal shelter fact: black animals are still adopted less and spend more time in the shelter. Well, this one has spent over 15 years in a happy home. If only he could get a little bit more food. Just kidding, but not really. Hey, shout out to Snowflakes and Nightmare. Welcome to the party. Said they lied horrifically about what? That is true. I do see a lot of and I am a dog trainer, so I do interact with more dogs than the average person. I do see a lot of black dogs, but maybe the shelter aspect of it really has different. Because again, Morty was never in a shelter. He went straight from mama to me. We also got Godfrey in the building. Good to see you. Welcome. And yeah, Em has 2 black dogs. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So yeah, this is what we're talking about. If you agree that we should treat like cases alike and different, and that a difference in treatment requires a morally relevant difference, then you have to identify the differences that justify treating non-human animals in a way that we would never subject humans to. And again, the answer is self-defense. Essentially, it's essentially self-defense. We cannot exist without hurting and killing other animals. Let's see. Okay. Did you, just curious, did you guys just click on one of the community tab things? Put one in the chat if you just clicked on the community tab link to this video. Shout out to Dietrich. Welcome to the party. So my cat is black. He gave me the pass. I swear. Oh, come on. I said shit. Me too. What would we do without our racially diverse pets? My pet is diverse. Snowflake said, I found mine in a parking lot on my way to a garage sale one Saturday morning. Never made it to that yard sale, but I absolutely love my Daisy Pie. There you go. So yeah, maybe there's because there's clearly a lot of black animals around. But if there's a statistic that says there's more that the black dogs are less likely to be adopted and spend more time in the shelters, then I think that the combination of shelter and black probably is more than just the blackness itself. But I don't know. So instead of plenty of black dogs, now we have 2 black cats, and they all love you just as wonderfully. Exactly. And like we were saying, the moral justification is humanity will cease without killing other animals.
That justify treating non-human animals in ways that we would never subject humans to. One arbiter you might use to justify the difference is intelligence. There's no question that as a species, our intelligence trumps that of every other species on the planet.
Have you seen an octopus and a dolphin? I don't know, bro. I don't know. I've seen some dumbass people, some smart-ass octopus.
But we don't normally think that intelligence is a good way for deciding how you get treated. Dystopian novels like Brave New World bring out the visceral distaste we have for that kind of intelligence-based caste system.
And this is also typically, when people talk about the problems with utilitarianism, it's like, this is why this is bad, because the only way to make things good is to, cull the lower class people.
So if it's clearly wrong to treat members of our species differently based on intelligence, why would it be okay to treat members of other species differently on that same basis? Well, one response might be to argue that the difference in intelligence between the smartest and the least smart humans is much smaller than the intelligence gap between humans and other species. But empirically, that's not true. Sure, most humans fall within the same general range of intelligence, but some humans are profoundly cognitively disabled, and some animals, particularly primates, are probably more intelligent than those severely impaired humans.
And octopus and dolphins. Smart as hell. But before we go on, let's end this poll here. And 75% of you said, no, I was not mad at the shooter of Cecil. I was so mad. I was so outraged. I was so on my high horse.
How dare you?
This animal did nothing wrong. How could you? This rich people doing this or that and all of the dumb things. Then somebody's like, that like that's a thing that like Cecil Lion was an issue for the people there, and then they kill him, and then it's for charity, and it does it pays for reservation stuff, and it feeds the families. I was like, oh, no, I didn't know any of that. I was just going on emotion. Not a good way to go through life. Godfrey said a friend of mine has a black cat, the only cat I've ever seen walking the block. Teacher says it couldn't possibly be because of how they act. They're not all black pit bulls are vicious, but most, and it just takes most. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a correlation with the people who have dogs that want to fight the dogs, or people who have dogs who don't treat dogs well, and people who own pit bulls. There is a big overlap, and that gives a legitimacy to people, thinking pit bulls are vicious and whatever else they have. That doesn't mean that an individual pit bull is necessarily going to be that way. And in my experience, it is the opposite. That pit bulls are just they're so willing to be sweet. Like, as long as you're cool with them, that's all they want. But when you train them to think about things in like kill or be killed, or that I have to guard my resources, or that I have to fight to live, yeah, that's going to fuck your shit up. Human, dog, pit bull, chihuahua, or otherwise. So the soul says probably superstition also in the case of black cats in the shelters. Definitely. The fact that hotel room or hotels don't have 13th floors is hilarious to me. I don't remember how old I was, but I was probably under 10 years old when I first noticed it. And I was like, why don't they have the 13th floor? And my mom was just sort of like, yeah, because people are superstitious. I'm like, really? As a 10-year-old? That sounds pretty stupid. Yeah, it is in their genetics, but their genetics, that's like saying, I mean, I assume that when you say, are we, okay, so, but to take it seriously, yeah, it might be in their genetics. There's also the same things that we see, again, the joke is alluding to. Are we still talking about dogs? Or are we talking about black people? There are certain genetic things that are going to make an individual more likely than less likely to be violent or be socially not nice. I don't know. But that is superseded by the individual choices. That is superseded by the individual mind. And yes, I am talking about the dogs. They might be more genetically geared towards a thing, but it still depends on the dog. That's why when people ask about, people ask me about the differences between breeds, it doesn't fucking matter. A dog is 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 a dog. Yeah, you're gonna have tendencies, but you can have the sweetest little Chihuahua and the most vicious pit bull, or vice versa. Obviously, the damage from the vicious Chihuahua is not going to be the same, but you get my point.
Animals, particularly primates, are probably more intelligent than those severely impaired humans, so that argument doesn't hold up. But maybe you think we should treat other animals the way we do just because we can. Contemporary American philosopher Carl Cohen, for example, calls himself a proud speciesist. He argues that every species is struggling to claw its way to the top, and that's how it should be. Every species
Okay, I wasn't about it, but when you put it like that, yeah.
Species ought to be concerned about protecting itself, he says, and since humans are currently at the top, well, that means that we're the best, so we can pretty much do whatever we want to other beings.
I wouldn't put it in those terms. We can do whatever we want. But the idea of, yes, if we don't kill animals, then humanity will not thrive as well. That's a moral justification if I ever heard one.
The problem with this reasoning is you'd almost certainly not be okay with it if you weren't a member of the privileged species.
Sure, but I am.
Remember, this is the exact argument that was given by slave owners to justify their domination of Africans and indigenous peoples.
Okay, but would we not? So the difference there is that if lions or something were able to compete with humans, it's not like they would be like, well, let's just all be equal, and you have your lion laws, or you have your human laws, and we'll have our lion laws. Not the same thing. Speciesism or differences between species is not the same between interspecies interspecies conflict. Conflict between different peoples is not the same thing as different species.
Argument that was given by slave owners to justify their domination of Africans and indigenous peoples. So if you don't normally think might makes right, then wouldn't it be hypocritical to use it as a justification in this case?
Nope.
Yet another rationale is that this is the way it's always been. And it's true, humans have been dominating non-human animals for a really long time. It's part of our culture, and entire ways of life are based on it. Farmers, ranchers, fishers, and so on. But arguments from tradition are always philosophically suspect. The mere fact that something has been a certain way for a long time says nothing about whether it's good. And once again, that was the same argument used in defense of slavery. And yes, the abolition of slavery was economically costly and a huge disruption of slave-owning culture, but I think that we all agree it was totally worth it.
Okay, but it still isn't relevant to eating animals. Sorry.
Still, one of the strongest arguments for our uses of non-human animals is the argument of need. Most people believe that we're justified in doing what it takes in order to survive. In fact, most people even think it's okay to kill another human in the name of self-defense. This argument doesn't justify using animals for non-necessary things like cosmetics testing, but eating is a necessity. So there's nothing wrong with eating animals, right? The problem is we know humans can be perfectly healthy without eating animals.
All of them? All of them? Can they afford to do that? Are they aware of that?
So yes, you need to eat, but you don't need to eat animals. For his
I disagree. Somebody like myself, if I don't have meat as a mainstay of my diet, I will literally wither away. I will literally wither away. But Singer says...
part, Singer says we should think about the treatment of non-human animals in terms of an equal consideration of interests. This means that identical interests should be given equal weight, regardless of what type of being they occur in. Of course, humans have all sorts of interests that animals don't have. Some of us have interests in going to college and voting and getting married, and non-human animals don't have an interest in doing those things. So
not relevant.
We don't have any obligation to help them do that stuff. There is an interest that we all share. We have an interest in avoiding pain.
Yeah, exactly. Shout out unwanted foe, Dilly, to that. Yeah, perfectly healthy with tons of supplements. And guess who's not perfectly healthy? All the ground swelling birds and nesting animals that get killed in the mills, the wheat mills and the whatever else that you need to procure the non-meat food. There is no way to survive as a human species without killing other animals. It just cannot happen. Now, if you are privileged enough to be able to decide that you can use your means to avoid that, then sure, great. But you're not going to tell me I'm wrong because I'm broke and skinny. Sorry. So the Soul says, quote, not okay with it, assumes our level of consciousness or thoughts in a sense that, for that animal. Does it not? Is that not a form of anthropomorphism? Just thinking out loud. I think you're right. Yeah.
That stuff. There is an interest that we all share. We have an interest in avoiding pain. Singer's utilitarian ancestor, Jeremy Bentham, said, the question is not can they reason, nor can they talk, but rather, can they suffer?
Again, that's irrelevant because I can suffer if I die. So we get back to self-defense.
Because we are all alike in our capacity to suffer and in our desire to avoid suffering.
Hey, shout out to Joe Mama. Welcome to the party. Yeah. There's a lot of us, man. Maybe most of the messaging around being healthy is making sure you lose weight and you don't get too fat. But for a lot of us, it's the other way around. Welcome to the party, brother.
Utilitarians like Bentham and Singer say that we need to equally consider that interest and that we are unjustified in preferencing human interests over non-human ones. Now, to be clear, as utilitarians, these thinkers would never issue an out-and-out prohibition on the use of non-human animals. What they're against is the unthinking assumption that animals are at our disposal. Since they're in the group of things that feel like humans, they must be factored into the utilitarian calculus. So if the issue is really about
factored in, but not superseded. My rights, my needs are not superseded by an animal's needs. Maybe Morty, depending on the situation. But if we're really getting we're going getting 100% serious right now. If I had to choose whether to live or die based on Morty being alive or dead, and one of us is going to live, one is going to die. Sorry, homie. You ain't going to make it that much longer anyway. So what are we talking about? Unwanted Fellow said, do insects suffer? Because billions of insects are killed to support the increased field size and other needs for vegan eaters. It goes around and around. You always are back at life. You always are back at suffering and ending life. And I agree that we should not want to implement suffering and we should not want to end life. But sometimes we need to.
Need, if you're literally starving and the only thing around to eat is an animal, they'd argue that you're morally justified in eating it.
And I think for a lot of us, that is the situation. It's not the only thing that we can eat, but the what we would be reasonably expected to operate on. We need meat.
Because the suffering involved in your death by starvation would outweigh the suffering of the animal.
Yeah, I've heard this. So the Soul said, according to science, We all trust the science, right? But yeah, even grass screams and warns its neighbors of impending doom. That fresh smell, that smell of fresh cut grass. It's fresh cut grass. You gotta get fresh cut grass. That smell of fresh cut grass is us enjoying the senseless death of grass. Yeah, facts.
The problem is that for most people in the industrialized world today, it's not about need. It's simply about taste and convenience and how things have always been done. But
okay, maybe, but like you put aside convenience as if that is the difference between going and picking up a pizza versus ordering it for delivery. One's more convenient, sure. But it's also more convenient not to be having to be counting calories and checking this and that, and putting all my mental energy into making sure that I'm taking in enough nutrients and all that. So this is this is not an objective look at this. This is this whole section about justice, ironically, has been the most biased of this whole thing, and we're getting near the end. So I think we might have 1 or 2 more weeks of this.
Need. It's simply about taste and convenience and how things have always been done. But let's head over to the thought bubble to look at this from another angle in this week's Flash Philosophy. Here's Fluffy. She's been your close companion since she was a kitten. You love her very much and you've given her the best life you could. But now Fluffy is nearing the end of her life. You'll care for her until the end, but when she dies, why not eat her?
Because I have a personal relationship with him. And even that being said, I know a lot of people who have chickens who, talk about Tim Gast. They have Roberto and Roberto Jr. Guess what? Those motherfuckers got 8. Yeah. So I said, I think he knows it is biased. He's trying to say PC. I agree. I'm watching photos. Is it more of a biased section or just that it's more out of touch with reality? No, more biased. Like, this is very politically motivated. Where if you look at the other episodes, again, we've done 8 other streams of this. We've watched 40, we've watched 39 other videos of them or him talking about philosophy. And we got into we got way into religion and all that stuff. Unless you're Haitian, right? I was just saying by a section of the series, not like comment section or anything. But yeah, I agree with Soil. I think he's just trying to stay PC here. And we know that the PC political correctness was the on-ramp to wokeness.
Life. You'll care for her until the end, but when she dies, why not eat her? I mean, unless you're a vegetarian, there seems to be no good reason that you'd be repelled by this idea, but you almost certainly are.
Except, again, most people are not given the animal. If you are used to living on a farm, then you do eat your pets. Your pigs, your chickens, you eat them. If I had a pet chicken and it died, I probably would eat it, actually. Why would I not? That's a great question.
Take some time here to think about why that is.
Personal relationship.
It can't be about harm because Fluffy is already dead.
Personal relationship.
She can't feel pain. Maybe you're appealing to some sort of principle of respect for the dead, but we know that some cultures think the best way to respect the dead is to consume their flesh.
Okay, but if I don't think that, then how is that relevant? If I'm not going to eat a dead person, then it stands to reason that I also would not. What? Why would you bring up cannibalism? Insane. Teacher said, "Did I lose my privilege for being too hateful? I still have some ideas that aren't ha-has. You have lost no privileges, so let her rip. Let her rip."
For the dead, but we know that some cultures think the best way to respect the dead is to consume their flesh. So if you're only not eating her because you have a thing against eating cats in particular, but you're okay with eating other animals, that seems pretty speciesist.
Okay, yeah, I think I've been convinced I am a proud speciesist. Some species are better than others. Some species I'm more okay with eating than others. And according to him, unless you're willing to eat humans, as long as you eat meat, then you're a speciesist. So what does that mean? What is the substantive value of being anything? Your last one was this. That's what I saw. So maybe YouTube didn't. Maybe YouTube said you're being too hateful, but I've pulled up everything that you've said so far. But yeah. So as long as you're saying, that any animal doesn't deserve the insects included, that don't deserve the exact same rights as a person, not even a human, because we got to go straight to personhood, then you're a speciesist. Well, that doesn't really mean much now, does it?
Eating cats in particular, but you're okay with eating other animals, that seems pretty speciesist. It's just that the species that you're giving preference to are both humans and cats, but you're still a speciesist. Thanks, Thought Bubble. Okay, so Singer has given us some pretty strong reasons to reevaluate our treatment of non-human animals. But you still might be thinking, why should I care? What if I don't care that I'm a speciesist? I like eating meat and feel no shame about it because everyone I know eats meat too. Well, the thing is, philosophers...
Well, again, I don't care if other people do it. I am okay with the legal and moral implications of what comes with eating other things that are alive. It's weird that he's not drawing an avenue to where it would be reasonable to eat meat and not want to eat, because the only escape hatch that he has here, well, unless you're willing to eat people, then you should not be okay with eating any animal ever, including your pet that's already died. Godfrey said, would you eat your own appendix if it would be cut anyways? Probably has protein. No, but not because I think it would be immoral, but because I don't typically get in the habit of putting my own body in my mouth. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
You to be consistent with your beliefs. They want you to think about why you think it would be wrong to eat Fluffy, or why you wouldn't eat dog meat if it was served to you, or why you were upset about Cecil the lion, and yet you have no problem eating, say, bacon, even though dogs and pigs have the same level of cognition and awareness.
Pigs are actually a lot smarter than dogs. Dietrich said our need to avoid suffering defeats the whole agenda of PETA and vegans. If we don't hunt, the species that do hunt would reap the overgrowth of animals that we mainstead and add us to the lineup. Spot on. Spot on. It's the implication. Am said that is odd because the animal kingdom, is survival of the fittest and natural selection. There's a reason why there's apex predators.
Bingo.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how many of those people would be. So 2 questions on that. If you own a teacup pig as a pet, also, side note, my kindergarten teacher had a full-size pig as a pet. If you own a pet that's a pig, number 1, I want to ask, do you eat pork and bacon? That's one question. I would assume yes for most people. Number 2, when that motherfucker dies, are you going to cook him up? Are you going to cook him up? If I had a pet pig, if I had a pet chicken, if I had a pet anything that I already eat, I do not see why I would have a problem with eating that animal. I probably wouldn't, just because of the convenience of having to pluck and gut and whatever. But morally, I don't see an issue with it.
Philosophers want you to be able to justify your actions, to give reasons for what you do. So if you're saying that reasons don't matter, that you can just do what you want even if your actions are internally inconsistent, then...
Well, that's not what we said, but okay, a little bit of projection. Sad. Stop.
Not only are you not doing philosophy, well, you're sort of opting out of rational discourse altogether. Because if these reasons don't matter, then why should any reasons matter? If I want to be a racist or homophobe or a sexist, and I'm comfortable with it because the people I hang out with have those attitudes too, well, the conversation's sort of over. It can be really hard to scrutinize your own actions, not just regarding non-human animals, but in most areas of your life. Today, we learned about moral considerations regarding non-human animals. We took a look at what philosophers
guys.
like Peter Singer and Carl Cohen have to say about their use.
So, do you think it is okay to eat your pets? Soul to Soul said, I had a potbelly pig when I was a teenager. I fed him bacon and he loved it. Oh, that's haram. Oh, man. Forced cannibalism? How dare you? How dare you? I want to vote. So the only ones who I met with teacup pigs were living in trailer parks. So I've never met anybody with a teacup pig as a pet. I just know it from How I Met Your Mother, when there's a scene when Barney uses a teacup pig as a way to pick up women. And so I said, believe me, it wasn't forced. It wasn't forced because you didn't know. It was forced because of the lack of consent. The lack of consent. All right, guys. So where are we? We have 1, 2, 3. We have four videos left. So I think next week is going to be our final Philosophy Friday. At least with Crash Course. And I'm really glad that we went down this road. Again, if you, as you could see, if you didn't watch the other ones and you watched today, you'll be able to keep up with everything. But I do really think that it's beneficial to go through the whole playlist, whether it's my playlist going through the videos or even just the Crash Course playlist itself. The videos are usually about 10 minutes, maybe even less. And there's 45 of them. 46, 47, 46 of them, including the intro. So yeah, I mean, that's not a lot of time. And I do think it would be worth it. But either way, we are definitely going to cover the rest of the playlist next Friday. As always, going to do Philosophy Friday. And then, I don't know, guys. Let me know. I'll do a community tab post. But we got to figure out what we're going to do for Fridays after that. Because, people are, I don't know what it is. People are just doing their own thing on Fridays. And I know y'all are like me. Y'all ain't going out to the bars and shit. You're just watching something else or playing something else. I don't know what it is. But we're going to have something special for Fridays. Where are we? Yeah, so I believe it wasn't forced. Nature says, for the hell of it, would you really consider it a pet if the extent of your intended relationship is to be for the purpose of death and consumption? If not, survival sweeps the rest of disconcern. Well, that wouldn't be the main reason, but like the main reason to have a pet would be the companionship of that pet. But then once they're dead, and again, before they even die, it's very apparent that they're going to die. I'm, last night he was breathing weird. I don't know if I'm in my head and I just like, ever since my sister's wedding, I don't know if I'm being weird about it or if something weird with him. I can take him to the vet and see what's good, but he's going to die soon. Like he's 15 years old. Dogs don't make it that long, especially the smaller dogs. They don't make it that long. The smaller dogs and the bigger dogs, they don't make it very long. So then thinking about, like, obviously I'm not going to eat Morty, but I'm saying if he was a pig, if he was a chicken, then the thought of him not being alive would already have crossed my mind. And if it was something that I did eat, I don't see why I would say that I wouldn't do it. Just said that's what I'm saying. Would you have a pet to eat it? No, it's not a pet, but I would eat my pet to survive. Sure, but again, I'm saying even if you get this pig and that you get this pig because you want companionship with a pig, or you get a chicken because you want companionship with a chicken for whatever reason, there's people doing weirder shit out there. I still don't think that it disqualifies that animal from being a pet just because you're aware of the fact that you can gain sustenance from eating them. I personally would look at you a little sideways, depending on the animal. Especially if it was a cat or a dog. But it seemed like this portion of the, unlike the rest of this playlist, it seemed to be pushing a little bit of a narrative that, well, you kind of should be a vegetarian. Whereas even we're in the religion stuff, it was just like, well, you could think this or you could think that. He thought this and he thought that, but they said this, but they said that. Whereas here, there was no representation for, I mean, there was a little bit, but not much, as to why it's okay to not be a vegetarian or a vegan. Weird. All right, guys. Well, thank you so very, very much for hanging out with me. Always much appreciated on a Friday night. Big shout out to the sponsor of our stream, Funk Master General. I guess we didn't get the match, but that is totally okay. Very much appreciated. We also had Indie Film. We got the super chat from Unwanted Foe. Let's just give him another one. Just another one. What, you don't want it? Do what you want. And of course, the super sticker from Soil to Soul. Thank you so very, very much for hanging out with me, guys. I really do appreciate it. Let's see what we got here. Last few. Dietrich said, we're on the same side, homie. You just you didn't get the pet pig to eat the pig, but the benefits over waste is a solid point. But if you buy a pet just to consume, it's not a pet. Agreed. Yeah, definitely add bias. And that's such a sad thing, man. That's such a sad thing. Because through the rest of it, it was very, I don't know, it was super objective, but did a pretty good job. But you ran Morty over to the citizens. Hell no. I don't know what that is, but probably not. I don't play games like that, so I'm gonna guess probably not. But hope you are enjoying it. All right, guys, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciate you guys being here. If you are a member if you are a member of the channel, the after party starts right now. So make sure you are over in the Let Us Speak voice channel so that I know you want to party. Once again, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus. Oh. Forgot about Giggle and Spy with the $5 Rumble Rant. Thank you so much. Thank you, each and every one of you, for being here, even if you did not donate. Just being here, just being part of the conversation, hitting that like button, sharing the video, all of that stuff really, really, really does help, and I really do appreciate you. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing over the weekend, but we will definitely do something over the weekend. And of course, I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're here, hit that subscribe, ring the bell, and you will never miss an TheIndianJesus live party ever again. Once again, Morty and Lutch, aka the TheIndianJesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, we are out of here. Peace.